Good evening and welcome to the Rochester Board of Education. Today is August 18th, and this evening is the Board of Education's work session. I'm going to open the work session at this time, and before I motion to approve the agenda for this evening, I would like for my colleagues to oblige me in considering, I'd like to request a motion to move the item 4, letter B, the F&P presentation. We have some guests here that will be presenting information on the F&P project. So I'd like to move that up to 2A before we start this meeting so that they may present
Motion.
at the top of the meeting. Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Griffin, second by Vice President Malloy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move that. Now, with that adjustment to the agenda, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended for this evening.
Second.
Okay, Griffin and Malloy again. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda has been modified, and at this time, I would like to invite our guests up to the podium for the presentation, and let me make sure I'm pulling this up properly. And this is the F&P, Rochester Schools Modernization, program facilities update, and we have Tom Richards. And so Chief Scott, I'll start off with you, and then you can introduce the guests.
No, thank you, President Simmons. It's just my pleasure. I just wanted to introduce Mr. Thomas S. Richards, the chairman of the Rochester Joint Schools Construction Board, which oversees the Rochester Schools Modernization Program. Chairman Richards certainly is a longtime Rochester civic leader who also previously served as the mayor of the City of Rochester. Chairman Richards, along with other members of the board, have been a tremendous help and has helped, and I've been able to work alongside as we continue this very important work as we modernize our schools in Phase 3 and creating learning environments that our students, staff, and our community actually deserve. I also want to acknowledge Mr. Pepin Asilian, who is here, who is our program director of the Rochester Schools Modernization Program, along with Ms. Siobhan Williams, the program manager, who is also here in attendance as well. So at this time, I'd like to just please welcome Mr. Chairman Thomas Richards.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us here. This is a big program, and it's going to have a significant impact. And so I'm glad that people are showing interest in it. We have made in the past an attempt to communicate in writing as much as possible because we know that we can't, only so much we could do at a meeting like this. And you're busy, you've got other things to do. So there's an annual report that we produced that reviews the entire program, both Phase 1 and 2 and now Phase 3. And then we produce a quarterly report which gives the progress of the particular of the Phase 3 that we're involved in right now. I know we send those to you, but if for some reason we didn't do it right, let us know because I hope you would have a chance to look at it. In any case, it can be used as a reference if something comes up and you want to look at it. That doesn't mean you can't ask. It doesn't mean that you can't get us to come in and explain ourselves, but I think it would be a help. Phase 3 will be 6 school buildings. It'll be finished in 2033. It's the result of a planning process, an elaborate planning process that the district went through to look at all of its facilities, to file a strategic report or a plan that had prepared. You had voted on it, or your predecessors had voted on it, and it had gone to SCD. The state, who approved it subject to some issues with respect to demography. But for purposes today, it's the basis on which we're proceeding. This program is amazing in some respects, particularly since most people don't know much about it. Phase 1, 2, and 3 will be a total of 31 projects and 25 school buildings. There'll be 2 district-wide programs for district-wide technology. And when we're finished with Phase 3, which is a $600 million phase, we'll spend $1,300,000, $3 million, 30, I can't even say it, it's so big. $1.3 billion. Final completion, as I said, is in 2033. Now, you've got some other things to do here tonight, and I'm aware of that. So I'm not going to go through this presentation that we prepared for you. I think we did send it out in advance. I'm happy to answer any questions on stuff that I might skip over. But I think I'd like to give you some little sense of how this functions and what our function is, and then give you some sense of where we are in the program, and some suggestions, quite frankly, about things you can look at. This is a big program with a lot of detail, and there'll be hundreds of people working on it before we're finished. And what can happen in a project like that is you get lost. You know, you get lost in the detail. And so we need to agree among us the things that are important in any particular time and focus on them so we keep going. The board, of which I'm currently the chairman, is established as an agent for the City of Rochester and for the school district. By that I mean we do the construction management and implementation with respect to the project, but we're implementing the school district's plan, and we're implementing the financial arrangements that the city has. As you know only too well, this is a fiscally dependent school district, which means it depends on the City of Rochester for its financing, and it cannot independently borrow. This project is also too big for the City of Rochester to swing on its own. It couldn't issue this level of debt. And so a process has been developed here where the state of New York backs up the debt with respect to the project. By that I mean it pays the interest and principal. There's a local share of 5% or less, usually less for you in our district. And then the city provides short-term financing, and that's the stage we're in right now, because in order to issue the bonds, you have to do a lot of planning and get ready. You have to have the money to plan and get ready in order to get the bonds issued that eventually pays everything. And the other important thing about it is that it's done in a way with this special legislation that protects the credit of the City of Rochester. So we don't get in a situation where this large hunk of debt comes and hits the City of Rochester, who can't manage it in some fashion. And also, you have ongoing needs as you go along. You have a capital budget every year. You have you fighting for space. I'm familiar with that in terms of the capital budget that the city issues. So if this program just wiped all of that out, it would be difficult to live with. But that means it's real important to stay within the legislative limits. You can look at it as kind of a box, and we're in that box, and we have to stay there to make sure that these things that are important are implemented. The credit of the city is protected, that we get agreement with respect to what the local share will be, and that we use the SED or state formulas for determining the appropriate reimbursable costs. It puts a premium on budgeting and scheduling, and you can't discover that you're going to have a problem when you're into the project. You can't wait. You have to anticipate, change all the way going through it. And so what that means is then when you add something, you have to take something out. If you say we want to do this, or something happens that causes us to expend extra money, as did at Edison, where we have a structural issue, then we have to figure out what we can put in there. By that I mean what we can take out. The state education department impacts this all along. They have responsibility for various approvals, for reviewing various items. Some of that is not unique. It's any time you do a project like this. Some of it is in the statute that are it's particular to that statute. That impacts schedule, and it impacts ultimately our ability to proceed. So we've got to deal with it. It's the way it is. Sometimes it's frustrating, but it is something we have to manage, just as we have to manage the other elements of this project. So we need to make sure that SED, the city, the school district, and the project itself are all working towards this conclusion and understand that there's consequences to the decisions they make. And those consequences have to be balanced and worked out in the process. So that's one of the significant parts of this process that we're in right now. We're in the process of getting approval from SED for the preliminary plans, all of which have been submitted. And they will determine how the reimbursement works and other things related to the way the costs are eventually allocated. And that's going to determine how we put the final plan, final financial plan in place. Every delay that happens, you know, it runs the risk of costing more. Every time we add an administrative requirement, that less money is available to work on the school itself. And every delay risks the construction schedule. The construction schedule is not just a conventional schedule, because we have to work around the school calendar. While some of the schools close and that go into space somewhere else while we do the work, some don't. In fact, most don't in this particular phase. And we have to figure out, make sure how we accommodate the fact that the school needs to be used, and while it's being used, it's safe and has the other things associated with a good school. So the schedule is very sensitive. If you miss a couple of months at the wrong time, you miss a year. And that's something that we have to guard against, of course. But everybody knows this. I'm not telling any secrets here. And I assume we'll all work on this cooperatively. So where are we? We have the interim financing from the city in place. They're paying for the project, getting ready to do the regular financing. All the design and construction management people are in place on each of the projects, and they've done enough work to make these preliminary submissions to SED. The preliminary submissions, this is what produces the allowable cost information to go forward with the design, have been submitted to SED, and they're reviewing it. We're about 2 or 3 months behind by our calculation. That's not unmanageable at this stage of the project, because we've got a lot of work to do here and a lot of time. But it shows you the sensitivity we've got to use with respect to it, and how we have to be careful with respect to it. What's important for us now, then, is this approval process through SED and our own preparation moves along in a way that accommodates the schedule. We need to be in construction next summer or next spring in order to meet the overall challenge we have with respect to this. That requires design work and other work that we can do. That requires SED approving things. And in many respects, it will require the district to work on making judgments with respect to what it wants. When there's a conflict within the building about what we do we do this or do we do that, that's largely resolved by the district. Our role in those sorts of things is to tell them, well, this is how much it's going to cost. Here's some alternatives you might want to think about because we can accommodate it better. But those are ultimately district decisions. And so they'll fit into this matrix as well. So there are a lot of moving parts, as I said, in this process. Those moving parts can cause you to get lost in the process. So what I think we need to focus on for the next 3 months or so, between now and when we file our next quarterly report for you, is that we need to focus on this schedule. And we need to be careful about it, letting it slip. And if something is slipping, we got to find out why, and we got to figure out what we can do about it. Because if we let it go, it will complicate the process all the way down the road. And we're far enough into this now that it needs to be accommodated. So, as I said before, one of the parts of this that's important is the district involvement. There's been some concern in the past with other administrations that they were not involved in the project enough, not doing enough for the project. That's no longer true. I'm not sure it ever was true, quite frankly, but it certainly isn't true now. Jacob Scott has been a principal, he's the vice chair of the board, but he's also a person who's been our principal contact. And he's the one who convenes people over here and does what needs to be done to get the kind of decisions that we need as we go along. And he's been very helpful and very active. Rob McDowell shows up with experience from Buffalo. So he's not only getting up to speed with respect to our circumstances here, but he has also got experience of his own in a project that's already gone through the process. A very substantial part of what happens here and part of what we do at the project is the financing. It's sort of a little unique for a public project if you think about it. We create our own financing here through this bonding process. Usually you get a grant or you collect taxes, or you have some kind of direct impact. Here we create both the system and the amount of money that is needed for the project. So our goal here, as far as I'm concerned at least, is in two buckets. One of them, this is and will be a substantial community economic development program. It'll employ hundreds of people. It will be all local. This isn't somebody coming into town, doing something and leaving town. And it gets at an important part of building our community, even if all it did was the direct work. And believe you me, if someone came to town and said, we're going to spend $600 million in your town, people would be very happy to hear that. Also, we want people who use these schools, the students and their families and the people in the community, to be proud of them. And because they do two things when that happens. One of them is it shows an expectation, and second of all, it says to people, we care about you. We're willing to put a lot of money in this, and we're put a lot of effort in it, and you're important, and this is important. My favorite story about that is Monroe High School. Monroe High School was basically left in terrible condition by the time we got to it. It had been there a long time. It was a high school I would have gone to if I lived in that neighborhood. But we put a lot of money and a lot of time in it. It took us two phases to get it done. We created athletic facilities that met the requirements for competition that they didn't have before. And 2 years later, they won the state championship in football. Now, I can't guarantee that to everybody, and it's not necessarily the only important thing that kids do. What I'm using it as an example of is it does matter. It does matter. And so we're happy to work on it. We're happy to keep this thing going. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you very much for your presentation this evening. At this time, I want to open the dais for my colleagues to present any questions. I do appreciate the work that you have done and recognize I had the opportunity to attend a couple of those meetings. I haven't been present most recently, and so there's an opportunity to come back and sit there, but it's a wonderful room to watch everyone work together to identify how to move this work forward, which is critical. So at this time, I want to open the dais for any potential questions. Commissioner McCullough?
How you doing? I just have a couple of questions. So when I was looking over your presentation for this evening, it wasn't clear, but has the plan, the due date for August 1st, it has been turned into the SED already?
Would you say that again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear
The
that.
plan for the preliminary submission,
Oh,
I see that
yes.
it was extended to August 1st, so we know that that has been turned in and they have that. So
They
now
were
we're just waiting.
turned in in fact, 2 or 3 weeks ago,
Okay.
and they're being reviewed now by SED.
Wasn't clear for me. Also, with the 15 to 20 million, the escalation that I see here on page 12, if those additional costs do occur, right, because it's saying it could occur, so if that actually happens, what parts of the project would be at greatest risk of being reduced if that were to happen?
Let me back up a minute. in terms of the context of that number. You may remember that because of the significant inflation that took place over the last 8 or 9 years, we did receive additional money by an amended state legislation of $125 million. So that's how we got from 475 to 600 million. So we've already had some accommodation to that. The second thing we do is the people that we have construction managers for each of these projects. These are experienced construction people in the local market, so that we're using information that's as current as we can use. Even so, there is inflation going on, and some of that is, particularly when we're buying equipment and other things like that, will have an impact on us if we delay. We have put in a provision for assuming a certain amount of inflation with respect to the numbers we have now. Now, I can't answer the question that you really asked, and that is what goes. That has a lot to do with where we are in the project, you know, how flexible we can be. I give you an example of that. When we discovered that there was a structural issue at Edison that had to be fixed, and it was going to cost a fair amount of money, we moved money from the work at East to Edison because we had to fix it. And then when we got the additional money from the legislature, we moved it back, which was, you know, reaffirming to have that happen. But what I can promise you is this, is that if we get to the point where we have to take money out, and we'll probably get there, the basic decisions with respect to it will be made by the district. What we will do is we'll tell you, this is how much it's going to cost, this is how long it's going to take, here's a couple of other ideas about things you could do to work around this, and get someplace that you want to be that's different. But in the end, it's your plan and your building.
Thank you.
So could I do a follow-up real
Yeah,
quick?
and if I can
But
just
yes.
if I can just make a point of clarity, Mr. Richards, I believe the question related to the State Education Department requesting the Rochester City School District closure plan by August 1st. We did have subsequent conversations prior to August 1st with the Department of Education, and they have granted us an extension on that, so that plan was not submitted because we need more time to finalize that plan.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the rest. Another thing with respect to that is that one of the things the superintendent who participated in that call he's talking about assured the SED is that the buildings we're working on are going to survive.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the reasons for that long study period and for all this review was to make sure we're dealing with buildings that are going to survive. The only elementary school we're going to do is number 9, Martin Luther King. Anybody who knows anything about that school and about where it is and its facilities knows that's going to survive. And so the superintendent was able to assure the state that that was the condition we were in here. Because it would be a problem. It would be a problem if they said, well, we're not going to let you go forward with this project until we resolve the issue of what schools are going to be closed. And no one knows better than you people how long that's going to take and what it's going to take to iron it out. And that would hold this project hostage.
So I just want to, ooh,
I didn't touch it.
no, that was that. Could I do a follow-up
Yeah,
real
the
quick?
final
It's
follow-up.
one. So real quick, just to go back to those reductions and how you determine which one has the greatest risk and which one to reduce. Is there a process that you go through to make those determinations on how to reduce if you have to? Is there like a process that's set forth already that you have set up that you follow when that happens?
Yeah, there are two answers to that, two part of the process. There's a definite process with respect to the engineering aspects of it and the financial planning aspect. That's pretty rigid, and it's a consistent process. The problem internal to once the facts are on the table, the problem internal is a little less rigid. But, you know, Jacob has gone through that a few times already and has spent time meeting with the people involved, explaining why or what we can or can't do. And so that process is open and a little less formal than the engineering process. But it's vital to have the facts and the engineering facts. If we can't agree on how much it's going to cost, then that discussion goes no place. You can just simply say, I want something else. So we really need to discipline ourselves, and that's for us to do, about how much cost is involved.
Thank you. I do have a question, and I see a few other hands as well. I do have a question for slide number 7, and there's a bullet that addresses the design teams. 4 of the 6 projects are on hold, may have an adverse impact on alignment of the school year movebacks. I'd like you to just expound on that. You may have touched it, but if you could just expound on that a little more for me.
Yeah, one of the unique aspects of the legislation is it has a series of steps the design has to go through, 25%, 50%, and then 100%, or 75% and then 100%. The way the thing is written is you can't go to the next step until you get approval at the first step. We're at this preliminary submission right now, and we've done with respect to those places that are mentioned in there about all we can do without getting permission, without getting a review. So until we get that, and we expect it quickly, then we can go on to the next round or next level of design. But what we've done is we just run up to the point where we can't go any further without getting permission. That's not a very efficient way to run a railroad, but it is what's in the legislation. And it's something we have to listen or work with. We're optimistic that it'll get better once these preliminary process is done. The SED has required us to do them all at the same time, so there's 6 of them, and go through all of them at the same time. Thereafter, once that's done, we can proceed independently with respect to them, and that will allow us to get moving much faster.
Thank you. Commissioner Griffin, and then I'll go into Commissioner Feynman.
Thank you, President Simmons. First question has to do with the $23.4 million in soft costs that are spent in a zero hard construction cost to date. At what point does the RJSCB reassess if delays continue? Is there a trigger for the escalation so you can come to us and advise us?
There's a trigger for the escalation. That particular number you see there is a number that reflects the administrative costs. There's been no hard construction costs. But we right now have a budget for the full project. In fact, there's an example of it in there. Once that we have something that's significant enough to move that around in some fashion, so it's significant, it would come back here. But we can't go beyond the $600 million. This is not one of those projects where you can run over. That's why this budgeting and this planning is so important. You can't wait till the end of this to find out, whoops, I'm behind. So we won't do that, and we haven't done it on the other phases.
I guess if it were me, if it were just my decision, which is not, right? You guys would be coming in here and a lot more to explain this process, because I think it is unfair to some of us. I know that when I was as a new commissioner, the report on this was very helpful when I first came in. I know you're not giving the in-depth like you do, you usually have done in the past. It is a lot of information to take in and to understand, especially at this phase, right? To everyone that is listening to the public. So another concern or question that I have is, and I may have missed this somewhere, but is the cost of this only from the district's end? Or is there a match with the city? And forgive me for my ignorance if I missed that part of this, but I just wanted to know if there's any type of the city dollars coming in to match or anything like that. I don't see anything or hear of anything like that, so it's just district funds?
You didn't miss it, it isn't there.
Okay.
The funding for this project is a combination of state and school district. That's true for almost all capital budget items that the state contributes to. The state pays the interest and principal on the debt up to 95%, up to 95% of the total. The remainder is an obligation of the district. And it's just finally decided the same way your aid is decided, depending on what you're eligible for. So it gets substantially below that when it actually it happens. But there is no city contribution that stays in the number. By staying in the number, what I mean is that right now, the city has borrowed money to fund the project, and it will get repaid when we get to the point of permanent financing. So the city plays a role in it in the sense that they facilitate it. And remember, the district can't borrow independently, but they don't make a permanent contribution.
Well, I guess my concern is that if we have this 95% audible threshold set for SCD and there's a shortfall, the money comes out of our pocket. Is that what you're saying? Or am I misunderstanding what you're saying?
Shortfall in what sense?
Well, I mean, as far as the project, if we have delays and things cost more.
Oh, I see.
All of that,
I see.
all of that is going to cost the district more money. And when we're at a deficit, which I think that is,
It's not going to happen.
it's not going to happen.
And the reason it's not going to happen is that this is a unique project because we have the number and the formula in advance in the legislation, and we're not allowed to get any more money. We can't borrow anymore.
Okay.
We can't go anywhere. And that's what I meant about the fact that this process of planning and keeping track of this along the way is very important. It is crucial. Now, it can be done. It's been done twice here already, so there's no reason why we can't do it. But we have to be tough on ourselves in order not to get into a situation where all of a sudden we try to present a bill to somebody because we missed the number. There's nobody to present the bill to.
For the
Okay.
purpose of this conversation, I do want to move on to the next hand. Do you have a final question that you'd like to render at this time?
Yes.
Commissioner Griffin?
And what are the MWBE local business participation goals and current performance?
Where are we with respect to them?
Yes.
in-
Can you give us some insight on that? Was that mentioned in here?
I think it's in the quarterly report, I believe.
It's in the quarter.
Yes,
But
it is.
if it is, then we'll certainly we get a report every month, and the report every month shows where we are. We're actually ahead in most categories, but that's a little illusionary because we haven't really started the heavy work yet.
Right.
It's
right,
been all
right.
professional, architects and engineers and those kinds of things.
Yeah, I'm really concerned that we are leveling that out, making sure that we have MWBE in there.
Right.
The business participation. So I really would like to know how you guys, how it's being verbalized or how we're even, ensuring that MWBE is a part of this movement and a part of this process. That's very, that should be intentional for me. I mean, I'm speaking for me, and in my opinion, I think that it should be a little bit
No,
more
it's
intentional.
what you just said is consistent with the philosophy of the project. We have a compliance officer who attends the board meetings but doesn't vote. That person and two or three other people are full-time keeping the program going. That we've learned some lessons there in the past. One of them is it's almost just like the budget.
Right,
You can't fix it if you're done.
right.
So you got to keep track of it as you go along and make sure that if you're falling behind or something isn't working right, you do something to catch up while there's time and ability to catch up. But it's an elaborate program. It has a significant record-keeping process.
Right.
And we'd be pleased to show it to you.
Right.
Please, I would
We'd be
love
pleased to
that.
walk you through it.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Feynman?
It all just disappeared. Oh, okay. Sorry, my computer's, I need to pull it up so that I can actually see your comments. Um, I had the pleasure of speaking with some of your colleagues because I was early. And one of the things that my question was, in your presentation, I see all of the schools that are being worked on, and they definitely need the work. But when I think of Padilla, I come back to the bathrooms over and over and over again and how they're disgusting and awful and prison-like. But it made me realize there's no list of the things that are needed at some of these schools. And I didn't know if we were working at Padilla if the bathroom was part of the project. And one of your colleagues mentioned that it's more larger things like HVAC and structural and things like that. But I was hoping that we could get a list of some of the things that you're actually going to be working on building by building.
Part of the preliminary work that I referred to that produced the strategic plan that was filed and approved by the board, part of that work was to do a survey of all of the buildings in the district. And all of those buildings and compile a list of all of the things that needed to be done to bring them up to par. Most of those, some of those are things you wouldn't do because of the circumstances, but in most cases they are. So for instance, I don't know this because I haven't seen it myself, but that would have required a review of the bathrooms at Franklin and at Padilla. What Pepin was referring to when he talked about the fact that we're doing the heavier things. There is a limited amount of money here. There isn't enough to do everything we want to do. And at the insistence of SED and because it makes sense, the focus is on the things that are big systems to keep the building going. So a boiler, air conditioning parts of the building. Those things are most expensive, most difficult, and they're less likely to you're able to afford them with the regular capital budget later. Because the capital budget later, you can claw away at things like bathrooms and so forth. But you can't buy a half a boiler, so you got to spend some serious money. But that's what he was referring to, and that is true, that the emphasis is on that, and that does affect the ability to do some other things we'd like to do. I don't think we should be embarrassed, though. One of the things that bugs me, people say this all the time, it's okay to do things that make the thing look good. School should look good, and we shouldn't apologize to anybody for doing it. And if it seems to be the right thing to do, then we ought to fight for it. That 46, I think one of the things that I can remember fighting about and eventually getting done is they wanted to paint the hall. And it would cheaper not to paint the hall. But, if you just leave it with the way it was put in there, it's very institutional looking. And for not a lot of money, you can change the way that school works and looks. And if you go in there today, it looks a lot better.
Thank you, Commissioner Feynman. We have a hand from Commissioner Santiago.
Thank you, former Mayor Richards, for giving the information that you've given so far. I do have a quick question about what you were speaking about with the construction businesses hiring locally. I'm just wondering, are there any obligations, whether for us we have RFP processes, I'm not entirely sure for you guys, but are there any obligations that say, let's say 30% or 50% or 60% of your workers have to be residents in Rochester, New York?
No, we do keep track of it. And there is a requirement if the bonds are issued through Comida, there's a requirement that they be local, but it's in the region. It's not the city itself. I think we have to think about that. It was always an issue that when I was mayor. If I say we're only going to hire people from Rochester, then Greece is going to say we're only going to hire people from Greece. And pretty soon, we're at in a spindle here. So I think, but we do keep track of it. We do report it every month. It's in that process that we're happy to show with you when you see it.
Yeah,
And we're happy to talk about what we should do. But
yeah.
the numbers are
definitely
pretty
love to
good.
see
The
it.
numbers are pretty good on their own,
That's good.
but, you know,
Yeah, I'll definitely love to see it, and definitely even a breakdown to Rochester. Although, we would love to support everybody around. We do have a high level of poverty in Rochester and a high level of missed opportunities for our young people after high school. And I think that this would be amazing for them to be able to be connected to, so we can have funding going back into our community and the economic growth of our community and our people. I do have an internal question to our RCSD folks. I do see that Wilson will be using the Marshall campus as swing space in mid-2027 through mid-2029. I'm just wondering, how was that decided, especially seeing that right now Marshall is projected to be one of our largest middle schools in the upcoming school year. How are we fitting an entire high school into a highly populated middle school, and how are we keeping it separate? Part of our reconfiguration a couple years was to separate middle and high schools because of different complications and different things that were found. And so, how are we mixing those two schools together? How are we separating those two schools to stay on the value of a reconfiguration a couple years ago?
So,
Yeah.
Commissioner Santiago, actually, the Marshall campus is, I think you might be referring to Thurgood Marshall.
Okay.
So we are keeping Thurgood Marshall as just the sole middle school. The original plan was that we were going to place two schools within one, but our academic plan, of course, gave us the direction that we're just trying to make sure they keep schools just solely one school. So
Okay.
that particular, the Marshall campus on Ridgeway is the best as far as square footage for the Wilson campus, along with like the science classes and everything of that nature.
Do you
That's
know
the
what's
reason
currently
why.
in that building? Is there?
Marshall?
It's just okay.
Yep.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
one thing.
Just as a point of clarity, I just want to make sure that our community has a clarity. So the question was about merging Wilson High School into Marshall. And what was understood at the time that we would be merging our Wilson campus with our Thurgood Marshall campus. That's not the case. It's actually Marshall High School, which is currently unoccupied, but we're preparing it for this transition.
Thank you. Yeah,
One
they,
thing-
they have the same names. I got a little confused.
Yeah, no.
I appreciate it.
The one thing that I forgot about that applies to the conversation we were having before. That is one of the things that we're working on right now is enter into what's called a project labor agreement with the unions. And that has some advantages for the projects, such as avoiding a strike and some things of that nature. But one of the most important things it has is getting them to buy into the program, into the MBE program. I think that is the best way for these opportunities to really matter. It's one thing to get a job and work on this project and then go home when it's over. It's another thing to get a career out of this thing. And you can get a career out of it in the construction business, at least locally, by being in the union. Now, they got to let them in, they got to do all the things that have to happen. But through this contract process, this project labor agreement process, we can get them to buy in. So that is one of the answers to that program.
Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you for the planning that the entire committee does. Thank you, Dr. Scott. Maybe I'm speaking into existence. Chief Scott, for the work that you continue to do. And I do hope to see great numbers when it comes to residents from Rochester that will be benefiting and working on building their community, because this is their community. The schools is in their community. And so I look forward to seeing workers from our community working on our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Santiago, and Charisma, just let me know if I have hands online when that may happen. So again, thank you so much for your presentation, the update on this information. This is an ongoing work, an important work, vital to our students and the conditions that they experience when they come to school. I do want to remind my board colleagues that I believe it's every second Tuesday, there is a public open space on Carlson Road that you can come and sit and listen and learn about the information that is happening regarding this important work. So we do appreciate all of the work you've put into these projects because they are vital. So thank you so much for your presentation this evening. If commissioners have additional questions, please feel free to reach out to the question log. We're going to end this conversation. It's almost been an hour at this point, so we're just going to continue at this time.
Well, can I put something on the board question log?
You can
for
submit it
Carissa?
through the question log, but thank you so much for coming this evening. Yes, you can submit something to the board question log. Okay, we're going to move on with the conversation, and the next item up for discussion at this particular time is regarding a proclamation discussion. I am using the general board docs and do not have, I'm not able to see the executive summary because I'm not able to get into my board docs right now. The proclamation up for discussion at this particular time is regarding, as we lovingly may be aware, Dr. Sankofa, more properly stated as Dr. David Anderson, who passed away recently. Our school number 16 was renamed after him. I believe it was maybe 2023. He has transcended, and his services, his homegoing services, will take place on this Thursday. The family has reached out to me directly and asked that I represent at that particular service, and I thought it would be fitting for our Board of Education to present a proclamation in honor of Dr. Anderson at that time. The language was submitted today by Rahima for your review, and this is unfortunately a short turnaround, and so this is open for discussion or suggestion.
Is this to go at the funeral, or are we reading this today?
No, this is to go at the
Okay,
funeral.
no, 100% in support. Big thank you to Dr. Anderson and what he provided to this community, including my little self doing acting. Back when I was younger, he provided space at the Sankofa Center and Village Gate. And so big shout out to Dr. Anderson. Glad that I was able to meet him before his passing, and I hope that his legacy continues to live on in our community forever. Thank you.
Yeah, that is how our legacy continues through the stories we tell. And any other thoughts on the language presented in this proclamation at this time? Commissioner, Vice President Malloy?
Thank you. And just, I'm in agreement with Commissioner Santiago and Dr. Anderson. May he rest in peace, and the impact that he has will be here for generations. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with no further suggestions, I think we'll need to formally vote on the language so that our clerk's office can move forward. So all in favor of the
Motion.
proclamation as it stands?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Santiago, seconded by Vice President Malloy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that proclamation will be set up. I believe, hopefully, we'll have a nice plaque to present to the family.
I just want to put on the record, it'll be Resolution 157.
157? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Charisma. All right, we're moving to the next item on the agenda, which will be the review of the NYSBA policy recommendations. These are the third and fourth installments. You've had an opportunity to take a look at those particular policies. I'm trying to open them up for myself. Do we have any questions around these policies? I'm going to turn them over to General Counsel to kind of expand on what is being suggested by NYSBA and how we may want to proceed.
Thank you, President Simmons. Unfortunately, I think my, make sure my board docs is working. Okay, here it is. I'm just going to run through them very briefly. There are several policies in the third and fourth installments of July 2026 update from NYSBA. 2120.2 refers to voting procedures. The policy is recommended. The update is recommended. 0100 non-discrimination and equal employment. The policy is required. The update is required. That update just deals with changes to a federal deadline to comply with website accessibility. There is a recommend a required policy 4321.12, time out and physical restraints. That's a required policy. The update is required. There's an accompanying regulation that is just recommended. There is 5280 interscholastic athletics. The policy is recommended. The update is required. And that updates addresses changes to the athletic placement process. There is policy 5240, student health services. As policy is recommended, the update is required, and there's an accompanying regulation. There is 5460, child abuse, maltreatment, or neglect in a domestic setting. The policy is required. The update is recommended. And there is an accompanying regulation. There is 8130, extreme risk protection orders, red flag law. Policy is recommended. The update is required. And there is 8635, information data, privacy, security, breach notification. A policy is required. The update is required. And there's an artificial intelligence policy, 8636. A policy is recommended. The update is recommended. There's a couple minor terminology changes as well to policy 5150, school admissions, 5152, admission of non-resident students, 5500, student records, and 8183, extreme heat conditions. Now the NISBA, the district has typically has complementary policies. Not all district policies numbers are going to be the same as NISBA policy numbers. Whenever we get these updates, what we do is we compare to our internal policies and we take applicable provisions. For the policies that have required updates, we do typically recommend a fast tracking of those policies if possible. And so I believe there are a couple on the agenda tonight that we have recommended, that I have recommended, that the board consider for fast tracking. Again, that includes 8635, the information, data privacy, security, and breach notification, as well as the accompanying regulation, 5152, admission of non-resident students. I believe those are the only three that I've recommended fast tracking. Oh, as well as 4321.12, timeout and physical restraints. I've recommended fast tracking the updates to that. So those are required updates. The rest are just recommended, so the board and the district has time to review them through the normal process.
Okay, and fast tracking, again, I want to make sure I heard you properly. 4321.12, 8635, 5152, and was there another policy that you mentioned?
5152, 8635, the regulations, so that would go to superintendent. I believe that is it.
Okay. And so fast tracking that would, is that going to end up in our policy presentation at this time? Then we'll be able to take a formal vote on those recommended fast tracks should the board choose to do that at this time. So you're going to touch on those in this policy presentation, or, okay, so I will move, thank you, General Counsel. I will move over to Charisma, who is going to go over our multiple policy presentations. I think we have about 7 listed here in addition to the recommended fast track items.
Thank you, President Simmons. Good evening, commissioners and community. So tonight's presentation includes our required timeline policies, as well as a few of the policies that General Counsel Neal just named. So there are policies 1300, 4205, 4206, 4321.2, 5000, 5100, and 5153. And so this is our policy review process. All policies have followed this except for policies 1300 and 4321.12. As always, policies went to the relevant advisory groups, except the 2 that I just named, as well as district administration, and now is being presented to you all tonight to review. So these 4 policies have required timelines in them. 4205, the significant changes to this is modified policy by adding district in its name, called out the name of the district's database program problem-solving system, reorganized policy language. Policy 4206, clarify that the MTSS framework applies to all students, replace problem-solving teams with student support systems, and then student policies goals 5,000, no significant changes, and all three of those policies did not have NSBA recommendations. However, with policy 5153, the deliverable at the end of policy 5153 has been updated to include transfer data to align with bullet 3J in the policy. NSBA recommendation, this is, I believe it was 5152 for NSBA's, so our number and system is not the same. Minor updates to this policy address change in the terminology and cross-references to students in temporary housing from homeless students. And then the following three policies are ones that's being recommended to be expedited. So NSBA's recommended policy, I want to say, is 8635, is at 1,300. And so we updated the policy to reflect NSBA's changes, which were the NIST and CSF standard and new state law requiring reporting of cybersecurity attacks. Policy 4321.12 is the same number as NSBA's, same thing, updated it to reflect NSBA's recommendation. Policy 5100 was not on the list tonight that General Counsel Neal had spoke about. However, it was part of NSBA's installment number 2 back in May, I believe it was, or June. And so this policy is also being recommended to be fast-tracked. Updated policy with the remote, virtual, and blended instruction section from NSBA's policy sample to align with current state regulations and define excused versus unexcused absences. NSBA sample policy had previously included exempting a student from minimum attendance. Also updated the section of remote, virtual, and blended instruction to align with current state regulations. And then, as always, our deliverable review. So these three policies, 4205, 4206, and 5000, 4205 and 4206 have legally required deliverable, whereas 5000 does not. Same as 5153, does not have a legally required deliverable. However, this was one of the things that was presented in the state monitor plan a few iterations ago. And so moving forward, the policies would move forward at this meeting if the board votes to do so, to start as readings and be voted on in the October business meeting. And then expediting policies 1300, 4321.12, and 5100 at the August business meeting. So those three policies wouldn't be voted on tonight. They will come to the August business meeting next week as a resolution to be expedited to be voted on. Thank you.
And just for my point of clarity, you said for expediting for the August vote, 1,300, 4321.12, 5100, but then additionally, 8635 and 5152 should be part of that as well, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Okay.
So 8635 is 1,300, is our 1,300.
Oh, that's transposable, okay. That's
Right, yep.
Okay.
That was my apologies. Yes, our policy number for that one is 1,300.
Okay, gotcha, I missed that already. And then, did I get any of those others? Okay, 43.12, that is 1,300, okay, so we, in the 5152 is part of that.
That's
5100?
That's 5153, which General Counsel Neal was okay with following its normal process to be voted on in October.
Okay, wonderful. I want to open the dais up for any questions before we move forward with anything. I do see a hand at the far end of the dais. I'll start with you, Commissioner Griffin.
Thank you, President Simmons. I just wanted, just a point of clarity here. You did not go through all of the ones that were on this NSBA list. You only went through some of them that were related to the ones that were being fast-tracked. Is that correct? First, I want to get that explanation or that clarity.
Correct.
Okay, so because I have concerns that I think that are relevant to, I think what we're dealing with now as far as safety, that has things on here that are relative to safety with our children. We always say, what about our children? These things are relevant to our children that I think that we may need to be on a fast track with as well. So we got the Student Health Services Regulation, and 5420/R. I even talked about this, I think, prior, that there is a mandate of a policy for this, that I think New York State wanted to put in place and make sure that we had a policy committee on the student health services. I believe, I can recall stating that fact, but I would think that that would be something that we would need to look at, the 5420-R, that is dealing with our children's well-being. And did you say 5460?
He did not.
He did not say 5460
He should've.
is relevant to our children. I don't see how that was missed. Yeah, there's a lot on here that we need to be looking at. We said 5,500, correct? Is we relevant to the homeless students? So I think that we need to look at what we're fast tracking and maybe add these to it because they're all relevant to the children's safety and to their needs. That's just my personal opinion, but I think it's something that the board may need to consider. I don't know what's everybody's, how they feel about it, but that's just my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Griffin. If I have any other hands or statements from colleagues? Commissioner Feynman?
I was just wondering what we came to a decision on using the terminology of homeless students or students in temporary housing. I don't remember where we landed on that, so I was curious as to what terminology we had decided we were going to use, because I wasn't sure that we had decided NYSBA's wording was what we wanted to use as a district. And I agree with Commissioner Griffin that 5460 should absolutely be fast-tracked.
Okay. Any other statements or questions regarding the policies at hand? This is a time for discussion. Commissioner McCullough?
Yeah, I was curious, so we are going to be revisiting these again at the next meeting to vote on it, to push it forward, so that's no discussion, just voting? Just so I'm aware of what.
These are up to go forward to the business meeting for, I believe, the vote.
Okay. Okay, so, because I did have some questions around policy 4205 and just some of,
Wait a minute, wait a minute.
go ahead, so,
Do you want me to?
no, yeah, no, you talk.
So the only ones that's being expedited are 1300, 4321.12, and 5100.
That's the only ones.
The other ones that were on the list that I presented tonight are going to go through its normal readings for 3 months to let you all decide otherwise.
Okay, that's what I was figuring out. Thank you. Never mind, I'm good.
All right, so again, as general counsel, and again, your purpose for expediting these particular ones are based on the fact that they're being requested or told to implement them now.
Right, so they, based on that, they're required, right? So that if we might be out of compliance, the policy might be out of compliance, that all the policies are going through a regular timeline as Charisma indicated. These ones, we just decided the ones that are required and that the district might be out of compliance. For example, the data breach one speaks to like specific regulation about specific type of reporting. And I think, and when we're reviewing those, we're saying, well, that might be something good to have in place before the beginning of the school year in case something happens. So we just focused on those that are required, but all the policy would go through their regular timeline. Of course, it's up to the board, right? So the board could decide not to expedite anything or to fast track others as well. But we just picked those specifically because it's usually to the benefit of the board for them to go through the policies. There's time to review and tweak. And there can still be changes between now and next week to even the ones that we've recommended for fast tracking, I guess, if the board had, the board would have some time to think about it and propose changes then. But by and large, we've adopted the recommendations as NYSBA presented them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And Commissioner McCullough, I do appreciate your question for clarity because that does give me a different perspective that I would like to offer. And just the different perspective being the fact, again, that the expedited policies, again, those are things that we're out of compliance with that we would want to move on and make sure we're aligned and in compliance. I would encourage us to be prudent around how we're looking at the policies. We often talk about being in compliance with and aligned with, and so giving us time to think through and actually look carefully at these does not lessen the importance, but allows us to ensure that we are making some good policy decisions. So expediting policies that we think are relevant and important, I think it would be more prudent for us to take our time and go through the policy cycle so that we can look at a first, second, and third reading to ensure that we're feeling good about the policy so we don't miss anything. I do see a hand from Commissioner Santiago, but that's just my perspective. Commissioner Santiago?
Yeah, thank you. I'm just wondering for physical restraint and timeout, if there can be language added prohibiting students losing either their outside time, even if it has to be done individually, or their nutritional needs. You know, so not taking away lunch or taking away their lunch time for it. And I'm not saying they have to be in the general lunch room, but they should still have that time. And so I'm wondering if we can add language, or if the board is in support of adding language restricting or plainly saying that, you know, timeout cannot be used to take away students from either their outside time or their nutritional needs. Yep.
Yeah, I do like what you're saying, but my question, I guess, I don't know who it goes to at this point, but is that considered a language thing, or is that how the policy is put into practice? So, like, where's that line for that? That's, because I do agree, but where does it fall when it comes to policy-wise?
That might be under regulation, which we still have.
So if you see in the update, there's also a regulation, and we actually had a discussion about this. The regulation has a lot more depth and nuance about those practices, and some of that stuff is already prohibited. My recommendation was to give the administration a time to kind of look at that regulation and then elevate it up. I think the board recently put forward some policies that said those regulations will come to the board eventually, you know, for review. So the board will have an opportunity to see that as well. But what you're referring to, some of that stuff is in the regulation and would come out through the regulation. But we didn't want to, that would be a lot to fast track at this point.
Yeah, we're not going to.
Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like it'll be in the regulation. So I look forward to seeing the regulation when it's done.
Yes, and Charisma, if you can, what Commissioner Santiago brought up, because I have heard of practices at times where, and generally speaking, in different districts or just across the board, where recess is conflated with timeout, where that should not happen for children. So I think that's a prudent point. Can you just note that as something that we want to keep an eye on as the regulation comes forward? Commissioner Feynman? No.
I just want to make it very clear that one of the reasons I would like to fast track 5460 is there is a change to the state law. And as we are about to set all our children into classrooms again, I think that administration and people in the buildings and our teachers should know that the law has changed on how mandated reporting is. That I worked hard on this law and helping change this law. So I know how important it is, and I know how specific it is. And I think that our people in our buildings need to know that this law has changed and they are no longer anonymous.
Quick question, Commissioner. Is it on this list, or is it a different?
Yeah, it's on this list,
You
but not
said
fast track.
5460. I'm not seeing it on the list.
5460 is child abuse, maltreatment, or neglect in a domestic setting regulation.
Thank you.
In this setting.
Charisma, what were you saying?
So, I'm sorry, all I was saying was, so 5460 was part of General Counsel's NILS updates. And just as a FYI, 5460 as well as 5500, because I heard a few commissioners mention those policies are up for review in October. Obviously, the board can bring them forward before then, but just as a FYI, they will both be on the October work session for review.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Feynman, for that. I would like to put a note before we vote around Commissioner Feynman, what she's bringing up regarding the alignment with the state expectation there. And then I'll hear from Commissioner Griffin at this time.
I just want to add to Dr. Feynman, thank you for clarifying that as well. But I just want, to the listening public, I just want to show the urgency of some things. It's very important to me that we look and we have the ability to vet these particular policies as we do the resolutions, right? So if we're looking at them now and we have still some time before the meeting, I don't understand why we cannot fast track these. And if we do like we do with the resolutions, if we have questions, then we can ask those questions, put them on the board log. But why not fast track the ones that we're looking at that pertain to our children? So I don't understand that dynamic because
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
resolutions-
There's been no decision to not fast track them.
No. I'm just saying. What the comment was, well, we don't have to fast track them because they already are set on for review.
Can we just
What
have
I'm
order on the
saying
dais?
is,
We have order on the dais,
let
please.
me let everybody else discuss. I
Just
just
want to have
want
order on the dais, you guys.
So I want to be clear that if we can do that with resolutions, this is, to me, more important that we address these intentionally, right? In an expedient manner. And if we put them on there to be reviewed as the resolutions are done, right, like we do it for the consent agenda, I think that's the way we should go. That's my thoughts, because
Okay.
our children are important, and these are important, and I think that is something that we need to be looking at now.
Okay, thank you. Were there any last questions on this particular piece? So where we are, in General Counsel, you've heard, and also thank you, Commissioner Feynman, for bringing in the piece around the state regulation and updates on mandated reporting. Would you also, I'd like administration to help me understand where you are with ensuring that, or how you might be implementing to ensure folks understand some of these new mandates that are coming down the pike?
Actually,
Yeah.
Okay.
President Simmons, I
Yes.
think, again, all of these policies or none of these policies can be fast-tracked at the will of the board. If the board wishes for something to be fast, again, the board could change its mind.
I'm sorry,
at the
Commissioner
term-
Griffin's not here to hear that.
Right.
So,
Right, so it is, again, these are at the will of the board. These are our recommendations for, again, what are required. So we chose to focus on required because typically, we believe the board wants the policies to follow the normal process or of the readings. If the recommendation from NISBA is that it's just recommended at this time and not required, then we allow it to follow the normal process. But it is completely the board's discretion. As it pertains to the child abuse and reporting policy, we can, that one, if it's the will of the board, can be fast-tracked. It would get, but I would always recommend that the board give the administration an opportunity to weigh in and to give feedback prior to any adoption, because again, the practical implications of how the policy is going to be implemented in the district.
and that is my concern. And so I recognize that we're very passionate around wanting to make sure things happen and that they happen a certain way, but I also want to ensure that we are working in tandem with our administration to be able to be supportive of that so that if it's being implemented, it's done properly. And so I do appreciate your feedback there. Commissioner Feynman, which particular resolution was that, or excuse me, policy 5416? Okay, so if we can add that one to the addition of fast tracking, because I'm sorry, if you allow me to get some clarity, please, thank you. Commissioner Feynman, 5416 and R? 60.
R.
5460R, those two.
But do we
And so-
have a flavor from the board of how they feel about it? I mean.
Well, that's where I'm
speaking-
going. If you allow me to facilitate the meeting, that's where we will go. And so if you stay here, you'll hear the full conversation. So at this particular time, I do like what you put forward regarding 5460 and 5460R. As something that we can fast track. And to the points made, we have opportunity to, I don't know, by the next meeting, we'll be actually voting on it, right?
That was gonna be my question. Are you all looking to fast track it for the August 27th business meeting, or are you looking okay with waiting till next month?
So now we're at the juncture where the conversation becomes, do we believe we're ready to make that vote at the August 17th business meeting, or do we want to take time. Yes, Commissioner
If
Santiago?
I can just add, is updating what the law says. So although I hear what you're saying as far as getting the superintendent's feedback, the superintendent can't change the law between now and August. And
But
so
that's not what the question was, and so I would that, I appreciate the discourse.
if I can
'cause it's
finish, if
important.
I can just finish my time, I do
I'll give you your
support.
time.
I have 5 minutes.
Go
That's
ahead.
allotted. You
Don't
don't got to give
take
it to
5
me.
minutes,
It's
Mr.
promised. It's
Santiago.
promised. You don't got to give it to me. But I support it, and I think we should at least at minimum make the motion tonight. And if it fails, then it fails. But let the commissioner vote on it. Thank you.
But there's no, so I want to be clear because it feels a bit contentious right now. And I want you to understand that there was no pushback. I'm actually in agreement with it. But I do believe that we also need to have the other part of the conversation with administration around not so much asking them if we can do this, but getting an understanding of where they are as this is getting updated. So it's a conversation on the table. So at this time, we have, you have to work with me, Charisma, 432112.12, 1300, 5153, 5100, and then we would like to add 5460 and 5460R to those numbers for fast tracking. And if I can just kind of focus on those right now, I'd like to entertain a motion from the board to fast track those particular items
So
as
moved.
stated. Moved by Vice President
Second.
Malloy, seconded by Commissioner Santiago. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those particular items that we brought forward for fast tracking have now been fast tracked for vote at the August, I believe, 27th
can I
business
just-
meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, Superintendent Rosser.
I know that we have certain dates in which we're trying to meet. We're talking about administration, reviewing policies, having, there's no laughter.
Commissioner Griffin, if we can have order on
Yeah.
the dais for a moment. I'm just going to ask for order on the dais. Meetings do not have to be this way. The superintendent is speaking. Okay, at this time, I'd ask that you just render the mic.
He said, he said,
Commissioner
"Why am I
Griffin,
laughing?"
do
And I
we
wasn't
need a
direct-
recess at
You
this
need to
time?
talk to Dr. Rosser, not me.
No, I'm
Yeah,
talking to you.
because I wasn't laughing
Do
at
we
him.
need a recess at this time? Okay, do you all, commissioners, do we need a recess at this time? Entertaining a motion to recess until we can reconvene for proper conversation. All right, all in favor? Okay, we'll come back in at 7:24. We'll
Absolutely.
come back at
Maybe he can
7:26. That's 2 minutes from now. Okay, thank you for your patience. This is the Rochester City School District's Board of Education, August 18th work session. We're reconvening our conversation. At the time, Superintendent Rosser, you were going to provide some clarity around the policy discussion we were
Yeah.
having. I'm going to ask that you
So there's a
take
couple
moment.
things I was going to speak to. So definitely, there's a 5460 policy, and there's an update that's recommended for that. And I understand the reason why commissioners are wanting this to be fast-tracked, and I'm not opposed to that. What I was going to simply suggest is, instead of us looking to fast-track it to our August 27th meeting, is it possible that we can fast-track it and take action at our first meeting in September?
Would that be amenable to?
Because, and let me just say this really gives us an opportunity to really make sure that everything that is modified in this policy is correct. You know, we have essentially a little bit more than a week, and I can share with you right now that when it comes to administration, we want to make sure that we're putting and giving our due diligence to make sure that anything that we recommend to the board is on point.
I think this is an important enough policy. I did see your hand, Commissioner Feynman, and so I want to.
I worked very hard on this legislation because of all of the misuse of mandated reporting, and I think that it is fair and important that everyone knows that there is no anonymous reporting.
Right.
And just before people get back in the buildings, that they know. I want to protect all of our staff, and I want to protect all of our children, and I just hope that we can try to get this information out before school starts is my only thought.
Yeah. And if I can respond real quick. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, and there's nothing that prevents us from sending something out to all staff, letting them know that there's been a change in the law and that there will be a subsequent action by the board to reflect it in this policy.
And I have faith in the administration to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Santiago?
I think that the worry was just us not being in compliance by the start of the school year. And so, you know, I do hope to see that. I do hope to see that as soon as possible. And I don't mean to, like, you know, shoot shots, but I hear a lot of times, like, we're only a month out from the school year, and I understand that. But I feel like that's selective because we just passed a curriculum the other week, a month out from the school year. And so we can't be selective about it. And there's certain things that's just like the values of certain commissioners on the board, or even majority of the commissioners, that we just want to see our children, our staff, and our families done right before the school year starts. So
Can I
thank you.
make a comment? I haven't. Thank you. And I'm in total agreement with that, and I don't think we should be making judgments about other commissioners or their values or perceived values or beliefs. I think that we get into dangerous territory there. I think we're all in agreement about what needs to happen. It's also really important when we say things like we're a week out from school or 2 weeks out from school, understanding the burden that we place. We've known about this meeting and what the agenda is going to be for a month. And so if that's of value to people, it behooves us to perhaps bring to the board in advance and let people know prior to what we're discussing right now, right? It's unfair to administration to expect that turnaround and workload in 2 weeks of time. And I don't think that that means that we don't value the actual content. I think we all do. We all value it. So I think we need to make sure we're not making judgments about our fellow commissioners or the perceived value just by saying that it's 2 weeks away from school starting. Okay.
I have not called your hand. I'm going to take a moment as we started this work session. One thing I missed, I didn't even miss it, I chose not to read it, and maybe I should have, and that is that the board expects district officials and the public to conduct themselves and speak in a respectful and courteous manner so that as to model proper civility and decorum for students. Shouting, personal insults, vulgarity, profanity, attacks, revealing information prohibited by law, or any conduct that disrupts the flow of business is considered to be out of order. The board may, among any other steps, available pursuant to law, take the following actions during the meeting to maintain a fair and efficient meeting. And that is to interrupt, to warn, or terminate a participant's statement when the statement exceeds allotted time, is personally directed, abrasive, obscene, or irrelevant. Request any individual to leave the meeting when that individual, whether in person or virtually, does not observe reasonable decorum or the conduct interferes with the orderly progress of the meeting. Call for a recess or any adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum so interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting as to warrant such action. And please forgive me for reading that so late, but I did feel that we were in a juncture where that might need to just kind of come up for all of us at this time. With that said, the administration has put forward a thought process on where they are. Commissioner Feynman, did you feel that that was, works for you? Commissioner Santiago, you were putting a little caution to the wind. I think that we're at a juncture where we will need to take a vote on this particular matter. And so with that said, what is even the vote, right? So help me out.
So as it stands, you guys just voted to bring the 5460 and 5460R to next week, August 27th business meeting, based on the superintendent's recommendation. He's recommended waiting until next month's meeting, and so that's really the question. If you want to wait till the next.
With
September's
the
work session.
caveat that he will be sending a communication so that district staff are aware. So with the items on the table for fast tracking, minus that, did we vote on those yet? Fast track, we did? Okay. So we are moving on to the remaining policies here. Let me just kind of.
I'm sorry,
pull this
President
back up.
Simmons, because you guys voted to put 5460 on next week's agenda, I guess I just really need the board to,
To remove those two,
yes,
50.
if that's what you.
All right,
remove.
so just, so let's take a moment, and I'd like to entertain a motion to remove for the purpose of what was just discussed, and which one was that, 50, I got like 5460 and 5460R to be placed for the September meeting,
The work session.
for vote, for vote on the September meeting, but removed from this particular voting at this time. Entertaining that motion,
moved.
Vice President Malloy, seconded by Commissioner McCullough. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Where are we now on the agenda, Charisma? Help me out, clerk.
Still needing you all to vote on the remaining policies to move forward with this normal process, so 4205, 4206, 5,000, and 5153.
Okay. And as stated by Clerk Travis, 4205, 06, 5,000, 5153. Entertaining a motion to move those forward as to the next state, which would be, was the first readings or into the
readings.
second readings at this time?
First readings.
Moved by Vice President Malloy, seconded by Commissioner McCullough. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Did we touch on the managed choice policy 5153?
Yes.
Got a presentation on that now?
So the attachment is just a report that's required for
Okay.
commissioners to look at.
I looked at that, and I should have, I had a question, but I can ask that at another time. All right. If you all are okay, I know we talked about the board town hall. It's 7:35. I'd like to push that to another time, or are my colleagues amenable to discussing the board town hall at another meeting? Maybe pushing it to, is the business meeting packed?
Push it to the next work session.
We can put, it is packed. Let's move that to the next work session. That'll be on us, but we're demonstrating that we may not be in a readiness for that anyway. So when is the next work session? Do you? Okay. Entertaining a motion to move the board town hall to the September work session. Motion by Commissioner McCullough, seconded by Commissioner Santiago. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We are now on academics, it looks like. Discussion item number 3, and my mouse is just doing all of the things. Okay, we have a receivership presentation at this time. Thank you, Dr. Rosser.
So at this point in time, we have our receivership presentation to give an update on where we stand with our receivership schools. We have Mr. Dan Hurley, who will be from the Office of School Innovation, who will be providing the presentation this evening. Mr. Hurley.
Good evening, President Simmons, Vice President Malloy, commissioners, colleagues. My name is Dan Hurley from the Office of School Innovation, and I'll provide a brief update on our continuous improvement framework and update on the current status of our receivership schools. So this work directly supports all of the board goals as we look for continuous improvement in all of our schools.
Mr. Hurley, if you can bring the microphone closer to your...
Sorry.
And you can hold it in your hand if you need to.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's better.
Yes.
All right. So this slide, these are our current accountability designations. These are based on multiple measures of 24-25 data. And the key point here is that designations determines intensity of support for continuous improvement. LSI schools receive district support. CSI and receivership schools receive increasingly intensive district and state support. And you can see we've highlighted some schools. Schools highlighted in green have moved to a less intensive support model, and those highlighted in red have moved to a more intensive support model. This graphic shows the state's support continuum for schools in CSI and receivership. Schools are given time in each tier to implement, progress monitor, really demonstrate improvement in each of these tiers. And if they can demonstrate improvement before the next identification cycle, they can move out of the tier, or they move to the next tier in the progression. So CSI receives district and state support. Receivership receives more intensive support. And we have CSI-A and CSI-B now, which is new. CSI-A schools are new to CSI status. CSI-B are those that were already in CSI when the re-identification happened. And we currently have no schools in independent receivership, and we do not have any schools with a transfer high school pathway. Regardless of accountability status, all schools participate in continuous improvement. Our district plan, or DSIP, that establishes instructional priorities and identifies district actions that the district's going to take to support schools with those priorities. The requirements kind of become a little more progressively more rigorous from LSI to CSI to receivership. All of our schools do complete a comprehensive needs assessment with feedback from stakeholders, looking at data. It's a robust process, and the state has provided guidance for all schools on that. Receivership definitely have the most intensive planning, monitoring, state partnership, and community engagement requirements. And I'm gonna share here this chart. This chart presents the latest kind of formally available results for schools, receivership schools meeting their demonstrable improvement targets. The blue bars demonstrate where the percentage of demonstrable improvement indicators the schools met, and the red line is the state's threshold for determining demonstrable improvement. And so I think here what we want to say is that all 6 of our receivership schools in 24-25 met their demonstrable improvement targets, which is encouraging. But I want to note, and it's at the bottom of the slide there, that making demonstrable improvement is evidence of progress for sure, but does not determine if a school exits receivership. Six of the 7 schools are eligible to exit receivership as early as June 2027. School 7, which is just in its first year of receivership, will be eligible in June 2028. And I want to reiterate, these are eligibility dates for exiting receivership. They are not projected or guaranteed dates for exit. And so upcoming in the 26-27 school year, the district and NYSED will continue coordinated monitoring through virtual visits, on-site support visits at the schools, quarterly progress reports. We're constantly monitoring what's happening at the schools, looking for evidence of improvement, or if we are seeing insufficient improvement, that's when we can make adjustments to continuation plans. We can adjust strategies, provide increased professional learning or different resources, central office supports for those schools. Our goal really is sustained, continuous improvement that's going to enable each school to exit receivership successfully. So, kind of in summary, our framework is in place, our continuous framework, improvement framework is in place. We have schools showing progress, and so this upcoming year, it's about implementation and monitoring of their plans and metrics.
So I want to just simply share, too, that we have a very good working relationship with the Office of Accountability and Office of Innovation and School Reform at the New York State Department of Education. And I did receive communication just last week providing us with assurance of state ed's support as well as their expectations, outlining the reporting requirements that we have with them, but also outlining that they will be available to support us in 2 on-site technical assistance and collaborative review sessions, as well as 2 virtual reflective performance and plan implementation progress sessions. This is inclusive of the other meetings that we have with the State Education Department. That's inclusive of the state monitoring meetings in which we also talk about progress in our receivership schools.
Thank you, Dr. Rosser. I do have a question. Slide 7 shows some demonstrable improvement, and I do appreciate the highlight at the bottom that demonstrable improvement does not necessarily equate to we're ready to exit receivership. So I totally understand that. On slide 8, it gives a number of schools, maybe 6 or so, that are the earliest possible exit out of receivership is 2027. Give me some insights on that. What does that really look like for us realistically?
So schools are eligible to exit receivership in their second year of receivership if they meet a certain criteria, which is basically that CSI status when they do those calculations. So all 6 of our receivership schools that, besides School 7, they could be eligible any year now that they meet the requirements to exit CSI status. And so School 7 has an additional year because they're only in for their first year now.
Gotcha, thank you. I want to open the dais for hands. I do see Commissioner Griffin, I'll move in this way.
Thank you for your report. Question, can you verify what each school is in receivership for? Because we do know some schools may be in it for attendance, it could be other areas. So can you tell the listening public, for the record, what are they in receivership for?
Yeah, so, okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No,
That's-
you
yeah.
answered that, because the other question probably should be directed to
Okay,
the superintendent.
so that is actually a complicated answer because the schools the designations are determined by multiple measures. So we're talking about achievement measures, which are weighted and core achievement measures based on New York State test results. But additionally, elementary schools their student growth, attendance, and English language proficiency are metrics that they are measured on. So it's a combination of those metrics for each school, and so that is kind of a different combination for each school.
Okay, I guess my concern is that why isn't that information privy to us right now so we could see exactly what the need is and how we can hold people accountable in the administrative level of what is not being achieved with our children, with our students. So this is good to know, but knowing where do we need to help at and where the money needs to be put into to make sure that we have, the children have what they need is a whole nother question.
Certainly.
Good information, missing some information. So how do we get that information so that the public knows, for the record, what our children actually are missing and need in these, with these different schools to help move the
Absolutely.
needle?
So receivership schools do quarterly progress reports as well as a continuation plan as their improvement plan. Those are publicly posted documents, so that we have just gone through our continuation planning and we finished our Q4 report for the 25-26 school year. So those will be uploaded into our district website. So you can see there's a Office of School Innovation page that has all of those reports. So the quarterly progress reports specifically will demonstrate where the interventions that schools are doing to improve, and it gives a quarterly update on how those interventions are going.
Okay. Let me just put this in here. Everybody does not go to the district website, okay? So I want to be very clear there, and for the record, we need other ways to get this information to them. I would even, if you will, put it a newsletter, go out to the homes that the schools are pertaining to. We can afford that, so that and they can't say, well, we didn't know, we don't understand it. I think that we need to be intentional about giving this information out to our parents instead of them having to go look for it, because that doesn't always happen, right?
Yep.
So nothing against you, but this is
Yeah.
something for the administration to work on. So we are each one teaching one about what's happening in our receivership schools.
And I want to point out that every year, each receivership school is required to hold a public hearing within the first 30 days of school.
Right.
So those hearings will be happening in September, possibly early October, but mostly in September. And those are directly right at the schools. And so parents should be getting information from their schools about those hearings. And at those hearings, schools will be sharing more specific data around their own lead strategies and the data from their previous
Thank you.
testing.
Well,
Mr. Early.
I got a few more minutes that we have. We also have to know
0.26.
that some of the parents work different shifts, so that's not always conducive either. I do, and I'm gonna say it again, that the administration needs to look into is possibly finding other ways and tools to get that information to the students' parents, so that we know, or their guardians, so that they know that this information exists and what is out there and what needs to be done. I'm sorry, to improve the schools that their children attend to. Thank you for all your
All right,
information. I
thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I want to move in this way from the dais for questions that come. So Commissioner Feynman, I see your hand.
I just want to say, as a parent of the district, I received my letter explaining all of this. Thank you for that. And I do want to say that I'm really grateful that I see on this list School 4, 25, Wilson, all in the Southwest. I'm really grateful that our parent center will be put in the Southwest to help uplift, and I'm hoping that the data will show that putting the parent center in the Southwest will help uplift these kids and these families. So I'm hoping that the data will prove, and I'm hoping with increasing our SPED programs, that 7, I know they'll bounce back real quick. So I'm just grateful for that. Thank you. This was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Feynman. Superintendent Rosser?
Yeah, just want to note, and I appreciate the presentation, Mr. Hurley, but I do want to make sure that everyone understands that the quarterly reports are posted. So the last quarterly report, which was signed off by me on July 31st, has been posted as of August 13th to our website. For those who are interested in looking at the detailed reports, that information is available to you.
And you may have touched on this, correct me if I have anything, some misinformation or what have you, but every school that goes into receivership or CSI status or what have you, is it a CEP plan that they present?
Yeah.
So that the school communities, meaning parents and stakeholders alike, understand the efforts that the schools are making, where they are as far as exiting receivership status or the CSI status?
Yeah, so, well, each school in CSI is required to develop a school comprehensive education plan, or SEP. And so those are also posted publicly. And so schools are able to see those. They don't, CSI, just CSI, not receivership schools, they don't post quarterly progress reports, though.
Gotcha.
That's just for the receivership schools.
Wonderful, and that's what Superintendent Rosser just spoke to. Okay,
yes.
thank you for that clarity. I'm going to go to the screen, and then I'm going to come back onto the dais. We do have a hand on the screen at this time. Commissioner LeBron?
Yeah, and just for clarity, School 17 is showing up on the slides under CSIA and CSIB. So if we can just get clarity on which status 17 is on. And then I just want to uplift that there is no legend on presenting data that shows green as making progress. But what is progress to Commissioner Griffin, trying to get clarity on all the factors that move a school into receivership. And I get that there's a lot of factors, but at that same notion, the board should be presented with what those factors are that put that school in receivership and an understanding of what the plan is to address those issues. And that is going to get them out of, I don't know what green means, in terms of, is school 15, for example, that's in the green right now, 2 issues away from coming out of, I don't know, there's no legend. So if we can get clarity on what, and even if it has to come back to the board should have an understanding of what it means for a school to fully be in receivership and to be moving out of receivership. And going back to those plans being posted quarterly, they should be presented as part of this presentation before there's ever a quarterly presentation. So just clarity on School 17 and understanding what green means. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Did you have a response? or
School 17 is a CSIB school.
Thank you.
And as far as why each school's in receivership, that is something that we can work on in writing, I think, and for a future time.
I'm going to go with Commissioner Santiago.
Thank you. My question is for Monroe High School. Monroe High School has been in receivership for about 11 years now. So I'm just wondering, in this upcoming school year, what are you guys going to do differently to continue making progress, or what are you guys' strategic approach to make progress when it comes to Monroe High School?
So I can tell you, just looking at some preliminary data today, that Monroe is demonstrating progress this past school year. Something I talked to the principal about today because we saw some promising results. And all of our receivership schools, CSI schools too, do receive additional resources through school improvement grants. Receiverships, so all CSI schools are part of the 1003 Basic School Improvement Grant that provides additional intervention, prevention, instructional coaching, expanded learning time. The receivership schools specifically receive a school improvement grant called Innovation, and those schools, that is funding to support what they have written in their continuation plans. So there's resources available for those schools there to do some different things. And really, when they went through that comprehensive needs process, they identified some needs for their school, developed a plan to address those needs, and now we have these improvement grant funds to support how they're addressing those needs.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to agree with my fellow commissioners on the point of getting that information. I know you said for the next presentation, would love to see in the next presentation, but I'm wondering if we can get that information, if it can be put on the
Yeah.
board docs possibly.
Absolutely.
For us to get the information as the full board. I don't want it individually, but as, for all my colleagues. For now, that's all of my questions. Thank you for your
Okay,
presentation.
thanks.
Okay. So I do want to bring the board's attention also to July 30th business meeting for your pleasure when you have an opportunity to just kind of revisit what we did vote on. We voted on a school comprehensive plan. There's a resolution there where we were able to see the plan. We voted in favor of the plan for CSI. It does not include necessarily the receivership piece, so we do want to see some of that additional information, but I do want us to spend some time with the things that we previously did vote on, with the understanding and the presentation that came with some of the information we're asking for. I do have a hand by Vice President Malloy at this time.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation and the work that you do for the district. One question I had is, I know I attended a receivership meeting or just a hearing, those are required, and there was some really valuable information. The whole board was invited to that, and so I know I was in attendance, and that specific information for that hearing, is that included on the district's website then? Or would that be included in maybe what is going to be shared with the board? Where can we find that?
Yeah, we can certainly, that's the kind of information I think that we could include in writing for
Okay.
each of the receivership schools.
Because I remember specifically a presentation, a
Yeah.
PowerPoint that had,
Yep.
the step-by-step, this is why we're here, this is where we need to go.
Yeah.
And I'm sure every school has something similar.
So, yeah, we use a similar template for all of the receivership public hearings. So we provide that information at those hearings, and everybody is obviously welcome to attend those as well. They'll be posted on the website. The communications team does a great job of putting that out there through social media, through, I think they use their robocalls, their texts, like all the different ways we can to get the public hearings notice out there.
Thank you.
Okay, that'll conclude. I got one last hand from Commissioner Griffin, and then we'll move on to the next item. I want to do a time check. It is 7:58.
Okay, this was my last question. I just want to know, and you may not know, how many schools, when we're looking at the ones that have receivership, how many of those schools are attached to like the 1211, the kids with high SPED levels, that may have a bearing on why we're seeing this receivership status? It's pretty staying consistent, or them not moving out of. And the second part of that is, how are we working to address that and making sure that it's level set? I think that's crucial, because I see some schools that may not have any of the kids that have disabilities in them versus some that do at a higher level. That's concerning to me, so can we address that, please?
Yeah, well, I think as we move into a shift in our continuum moving forward, the data that these schools are in receivership for is based on previous continuums. So I don't want to speak currently to, what or why, because those things have shifted for the coming school year.
If we could get some information on how it's shifted as far as those concerns, I would greatly appreciate it from the administration, because I think that visual is needed, and to see how many 1211s or the 411s, 811s that we have, or 611s or 612s we have at each one of these schools, and how they play a part in the information that is provided and the data that we receive. So if you can put that down in the board law question, so that we have that in an expedient manner, I would appreciate it, because those things are crucial to see how the principals need to work towards getting our children and our schools out of receivership. So I think, and we need to know it. We need to know who needs the help and who's not getting the help, and to show accountability. Thank you, sir, for your
Thank you.
presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Hurley. Dr. Rosser, you all set? All right, thank you for your presentation this evening. We're going to move forward on the agenda at this time. Give me un momento, por favor. There we go. And we are at the resolution review. This is for academic resolutions, being resolutions 124 through 139. I'm going to open these up for conversation in just a moment. And once we vote on these particular resolutions, they will move forward to the board meeting consent agenda. If there are items of concern that we want to spend more time with, we can lift that at this particular time. So I'd like to entertain a motion to review the resolutions 124 through 139. Motion by Commissioner Griffin, seconded by Commissioner McCullough. And we're going to open that for discussion at this time, 124 through 139. Yes? Is there a concern?
Excuse me, President
Yes.
Simmons, did you say a motion to review or a motion to forward?
Oh, forward, well, before, yeah, well, to forward, yes, thank you. I said review. Thank you. Motion to forward, 124 through 139. And we have a motion on the floor, Commissioner Griffin and Commissioner McCullough. And so I'm going to open those items for discussion at this time. 124 through 139.
Yes.
Is there a hand up there? Okay, Commissioner LeBron?
Hi, yes. Two things. On Resolution 128 for WorkFit Medical, that resolution is dated for a contract that started July 1st. It is asking the board to approve $52,500 already spent before it come to the board, which we have a board policy that says the administration can't go above $35,000 without coming to the board. So I want to understand why that has been sidestepped and overstepped, why it would be coming to the board in August for a contract that started in July. And then on Resolution 127, because these are the two I have flagged for right now, there are three different amounts listed for the same actual budget line. And one of those budget lines eats up the entire budget line that's there. So there are two additional budget lines being attributed to that. I don't know if that's an oversight or what that is, but I wanted to flag 127 and 128.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner LeBron. Let's start with 127, and then we can address 128 if we have a response or some clarity that can be provided.
Chief Swan, if you can approach the microphone to discuss this particular resolution.
For resolution I'm sorry,
127, the WorkFit medical staffing.
that's 128. Resolution 128 is work fit.
127, which is WorkFit.
No, 128 is what I have for the WorkFit Medical, and 127 is the budgetary line
Correct,
issues.
correct, 128, my
Yes.
apologies.
So Commissioner LeBron, you are correct that we had a difficult time getting contracts signed and agreements. The resolution is for nursing services of students with severely medically needs that require one-on-one nursing, and the students did receive supports during extended school year programming, so there was continuity for those students.
And that was for resolution.
Okay, but that doesn't
addressing 128.
answer. Yeah, but it does not answer that you're sidestepping. I get that it's for the students, but everything is here is supposed to be for the students. But there's a board policy that says anything over $35,000 has to come to the board for a vote. You all knew the students would be there throughout the summer, so if people were not planning, were planning in time. It does not sidestep that the board policy is not being followed and that we're being asked to go into a contract. And I just also have to point out, especially contract for medical providers at a time where the county is facing some backlash for sort of rushing through a process without doing some due diligence on their end. So I just want to be clear that the board is aware that the policy is not being followed and you are all being asked to approve this. Thank you.
Thank you. And what policy were you addressing, Chief Swan? Was that 128 that you just?
128 work fit.
So, okay, it's a resolution, excuse me, 128, and so you expressed there was a need for students. I don't know, I don't want to get into executive session, but yeah, can you You had to expedite, I'm trying to understand.
We
If you can-
did, we
If you
did.
can
We,
provide a little bit more
Yeah.
detail, what you mentioned was that there were some issues related to the contract.
We
And what
do.
we needed to do was to make sure that there was continuity of services for students who have a great need for nursing services. So if you can expound upon what some of the contractual issues were, if it's applicable and right for this particular setting. If not, we can most certainly hold off into executive session.
I do think it's applicable, so we start our contract process months before it's to be due. Finding one-to-one nursing services is difficult. WorkFit is a new company that we're working with. We had some contractual processing problems going back and forth with the company, signatures, timelines. I do want the board to know that I have sat down with my team, and we have even extended those timeframes longer, not to be in this situation, but again, also looking to make sure that we were just providing continuity of services.
And if I can note to the board as well, is that we've been having conversations and have really been tightening up the history here in the district regarding services being rendered prior to contracts being solidified.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that there's some cleanup happening, because I know this has been a practice for a number of years. This is not something new, but it is something that should, hopefully under this administration, we can get this under control, because it certainly shouldn't be happening. I'm glad the students did get the support they needed, but thank you for that. It's been happening for years and years at this district.
I want to put, though, on the record
and
that it has...
That is concerning. But are you able,
I want to
Chief
put on the
Swan-
record, it has only happened under certain administration. It was not a continuity
Yeah,
of
I
leadership
appreciate that.
this type of stuff happens, and it happened under certain leadership.
I appreciate that,
And
but I
that should
haven't
be a
called
red
on you.
flag to this community
But
at large.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. But like I said, it has happened, if it's under administrations or where it's happened, it has happened. That's the point. Chief Swan, there was a question that Commissioner LeBron also asked you about regarding Resolution 127. Are you able to provide clarity there, or is it a different one?
I'm trying to think if that's Swan. That's not Swan. So, Dr. Wright, if you can speak to this, this is the, and thank you very much, Chief Swan. This is the out-of-district Title I equitable share? Okay, Chief Wilson will be able to address this.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner LeBron, for that question. As I'm reviewing those certified budget line items, there are different budget codes that are assigned to those. What I'll make sure is I'll double check on what's in that certified line balance, that it's correct. But I do believe that it's articulating and pulling from different budget codes, and we expect that that total should align to what's in that certified budget line as well, but I'm going to double check.
Yeah,
I
because
see
the way
what
that
you
that's
mean on
reading
your
right now doesn't articulate what you're just articulating, just as I'm reading it right now.
Are you
As
looking,
is.
I'm sorry, are you looking at the certified budget line balance where it's the 610?
Correct. And you see where it's the same repeat number for all three. I see where it's saying it's attached to a different budget code, but if it's all being pulled from the same budget line, and that budget line is tapping out at one of those budget codes, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
With that said, I would like to remove 127.
Yeah.
We'll take that out of this package. And I want to continue the conversation with my colleagues around any additional concerns regarding resolutions. I see a hand from you, Commissioner McCullough, and then I do see Commissioner Griffin. Commissioner McCullough?
Okay, thank you. I do have a couple of questions for a couple of these, if I may. For Resolution 124, which is the Bay State interpreters, I noticed that there's a significant increase, an additional $52,000 this year, but the executive summary doesn't explain why that increase is there. Is there something you can shed some light on for us, so why that increase is there?
Yeah. So Chief Cody will provide a response to this one. Commissioner McCullough.
Yes, thank you for the question. We have, over the past 5 years, seen significant increases in the number of multilingual students who are accessing these interpretation services. So when we did the RFP last school year and the original 5-year agreement was brought before the board with the sum not to exceed $95,000 in every year, as we progressed throughout last year, particularly we see an elevated level of requests during testing season because all students are required to receive access to those interpreters during testing. And so essentially, through that increase in services, we needed to project. During budgeting, we did project this out. That was after last year's RFP already took place. So we did budget the funding for it, and now we're just coming back in the first renewal to ask for the more appropriate number based on what we project needing. There has been an increase in our MLL population, as well as we think just an increase in the use of the services since we transitioned from the old system that we were using previously to this new system. We're finding that schools find it easier to access, easier to request services, and so it's sort of a catch-22. It's a good problem because more kids are being serviced, but it's going to cost us a bit more.
So with so can we assume then the following year and the year after that, we should see this same increase there?
We're continuing to, now that we know that it's growing so exponentially, looking at our internal systems and services. So we're reviewing internal resources that we have. We do have about 11 homeschool assistants that speak some of the highest incident languages. We have some translators within the communications department. So we're looking at internal resources as well as these contracted resources to make sure that we have a portfolio of services that serve all the needs of our students and families in the most effective and fiscally efficient way.
Okay, so with that being said as well, so you're going to go back, you're going to look, and you're looking at everything. Should we expect this resolution to be changed so that it can properly fit for the years coming? So that way we're not having this conversation every year about why this is going up.
It will probably, if we can continue on this trajectory and continue to use this company solely for these services, we will probably need more than $95,000 each year. But we're just coming back for the 1-year renewal for the 95 plus the additional 52 for this year. And then we expect that we will have more data to project out better. Yep. What's happened over the past 5 years is that we went from spending $15,000 on this 5 years ago to $95,000 last year. And there's a lot of factors involved in that. We used to be able to piggyback on a Monroe County contract. Now we're doing it on our own. So we're trying to go really deep into the analysis and again, make sure that we're making the most effective and fiscally prudent decision.
Okay, thank you. So I do have another question. These are for resolutions 135 and 136. They deal with the social studies, PIG, economics, 7th grade social studies. Both executive summaries suggest that there are a different number of educators that are actually on the resolutions themselves. Is there a reason for that? Did you just not find enough, and so it's not matching, or should it match what it says?
I believe in the executive summaries, the numbers that they're referring to are the educators that this will impact, whereas the teachers listed on the resolution are the ones doing the actual work. So oftentimes they'll have a smaller team doing the curriculum work, and then that work will be rolled out to all of the rest of the teachers of those grade levels in the district who will then be using that curriculum that they're working on.
Are we sure? But that's what that language is saying? Because I thought when I read, I could have sworn it says it was authorizing 5 educators to do this, but it's only like 4 there. I just want to make sure I read it right, because I may have read it wrong.
That may have been originally, maybe there was 5, and then a teacher may have bowed out. So I can go back and check those, but the names on the resolution would be the more accurate what you're actually approving for.
Okay. That makes sense. 'Cause I always look at the executive summaries to match it up. Okay.
Thank you.
Were there any other questions? Commissioner Griffin?
Yes, my question is for Resolution 125. It has to do with the junior achievement. I think it's an excellent program, for the record. I do think it's something that we need and that is instrumental with dealing with our younger children in middle school. So I do think it's a good program. However, my concern is that I'm looking at all of this money coming out of our general fund. This is for a good cause, but I also have to question our grants. In coming from an organization, which I know they probably have the monies to give to the district or to utilize our students for a grant that they could receive themselves is a concern. But however, what are we doing internally as far as seeking grants for some of these recommendations or for these resolutions that have to do with our children? I would like to see from our grant department, a list of grants that we're actually applying for. I know grants, sometimes they fade away, you have to fulfill them, and then you don't get them back again. I understand that process, but I'm really concerned about doing more with less, and how do we go out and get the grants to ensure that we're doing the best that we can to keep money inside in our general funds. It's concerning to me because I see our general funds money is elevating, and it's reducing, I should say, versus staying at a certain level that we had prior, and everything is coming out of there. So can somebody?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So one of the things that I've charged, and Dr. Wright, of course, has worked with her team because she oversees the grant department, is that we charge the grants department to most certainly look for any opportunity for us to be able to bring in more revenue so that we can lessen the impact on our general fund. In addition to that, we are also working very closely with courting and having conversations with the philanthropic community to see in what ways they may be able to support the efforts of the school district as demonstrated through the generous grant that ESL provided to us, which was close to $1 million to support our community schools initiative. So we are actively working to identify new revenue streams through grants, as well as having conversations with our philanthropic community, as well as having conversations with folks down in Albany about ways in which we can potentially increase our state aid allotments.
Okay, I just want to piggyback off of what you're saying, in a sense that, this was a little bit of time ago, but we had 40,000 students. We had one person in our grant office that managed 40,000 students at one point in time in this district. How many people do we have in our grant office now that actually looks at the grants and is focused in on grants? We have 20,000, a little over 20,000 students. So I guess when I'm looking at these things, I'm looking at how many people we have in each department that could be concentrating just on these grants and making sure we're not missing like the McKinley-Ventos and all this. I've seen people are in positions to make sure that we have these grants and that we're doing things with fidelity. But I'm just having a problem with maybe that's not happening with fidelity, and that some of these grants, I pulled out several grants myself that we actually missed, okay, that we could have applied for as a district, but we didn't, right? So my question to you, Dr. Ross, would be, are we actually making sure that we are addressing and pulling out these grants and applying for them like we should as a district, because they can definitely help us financially? You may not be able to answer that now, and I understand that.
Yeah, I can
But
answer.
I think that there is a lot to be said about a lot of grants out here that can offset some of these figures that I see coming out of our general fund. Thank you.
Right, so I can answer it real quick. So our grants department is doing a good job, and they are going to do an even better job with identifying grants that support our board goals and are aligned with what we can do as a school district. Not every grant that is made available to school districts fit the mode or what we need to do, or we may not be able to accomplish the deliverable with where we're currently at in the journey. The grants team will continue, as I mentioned earlier, to identify grants that are going to be reviewed. We have a process by which we review the various grant opportunities, and then we make decisions based upon the various elements that I spoke to. Does it connect to our board goals? Do we have the capacity to be able to address the deliverables in the grant? And then on top of that, is it aligned with what we are looking to do? So they will continue to engage in that work. And I know that we have talked previously about identifying other agencies that might be able to assist us as well.
Thank you, Dr. Rosser. Commissioner Santiago?
Just a very quick question. Resolution, Jesus, should have been ready. Resolution 130, it's only $129, but I'm just trying to understand how one teacher is planning a whole department and at a department meeting. So are you telling me that there's going to be one teacher at the department planning meeting, or is there other people there too?
Thank you for the question. No, there will be other people there. Our executive director of the arts, as well as our 2 district coaches, but they will be planning on their salaried time. This will be the first year that we have a arts-based instructional coach that was allocated for SOTA to support their program, and so they just wanted to include the school-based coach in the department planning as well, so that there's some school-based voice in that work, and so she just needs the additional hours because it's outside of her contractual time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I just didn't want her to be lonely, that's all.
With that said, I think that concludes our conversations on the resolution. We're going to have a final question from Commissioner McCullough, and we're going to close out this conversation.
Okay, I just wanted to follow back up on Resolution 35 and 135 and 136, because I just had to go back in and look at those executive summaries again, and it did say exactly what I was thinking it said. So in order for us to keep our resolutions and our executive summaries to match, I think it needs to be changed, only because when I looked at the resolution itself, it's paying for the amount of people that are in the executive summary, but the amount of people that's in the resolution are less. So that money that's being allocated is being allocated to 5, but there's only 4 names. And vice versa with the other one, with 136, is being allocated for 7, but it's only 6 people that are actually doing it. So if they could line up, so that way we know that we're voting on things that actually match.
They absolutely should line up. We will go back and make those
And
corrections.
that was Commissioner McCullough, 136, and what was the other resolution? 135. Okay, and with that stated, we are, again, resolutions 124 through 139, and so with the removal of 127, 135, and 136. Am I missing any? Okay, so with those being removed for additional follow-up, I'd like to entertain the motion for 124 through 139, of course, minus the resolutions as stated. Motion by Commissioner McCullough, seconded by Vice President Malloy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, all are moving forward to the consent agenda, minus 127, 35, and 136. We're going to move on here to the Office of Parent Engagement, OPE. Dr.
So,
Rosser?
yeah, thank you very much. So there's been a lot of hard work and effort put into creating the Parent Center under the Office of Parent Engagement. Chief Wilson will be providing the presentation this evening. This will give an update as to where we're at with the work associated with this Parent Center. Chief Wilson.
Thank you, Dr. Rosser, President Simmons, Commissioners. Tonight, I'm going to provide a brief update on the Parent Center and our preparation for the opening of school. I want to acknowledge our acting director, Ms. Kelly Briggs, and the team who, as Dr. Rosser just shared, has put a lot of work into the Parent Center and also building capacity amongst our department and preparing again for the 25-26 school year. So tonight I want to just give you a clear picture of what families can expect and how the Parent Center fits within our larger approach to family engagement, and then how we will learn and adjust as the work gets underway. So the Parent Center is intended to provide families with three things: information, connections, and support. I do want to make it a distinction that while the Parent Center provides a centralized hub, family engagement does not live in one office or one building, and our team is very much excited about the work of building capacity so that all departments can support our families. Our approach is informed by the dual capacity framework, where the idea that effective family-school partnerships require us to build capacity on both sides. So we're supporting families with the information, we're building relationships and opportunities, and we're partnering with families. So that means that our parent liaisons, homeschool assistants, community partners, district staff, and all share responsibility for how our families experience RCSD. So the Parent Center provides a hub and supports and engaging families to remain of collective responsibility across our district. This slide gives you a more concrete picture of what families may be able to access and expect when they come to the Parent Center. Currently, as you know, the Parent Center is located at 200 Genesee Street or Loretta Johnson, or on the side of the Dr. Samuel McCree side, I learned today. So this building has 2 floors, as you are already aware. One floor will be dedicated for a lot of our family meetings, a lot of the partnerships that'll come in. We are establishing a food pantry, so this will be another opportunity for a centralized food pantry, clothing closet. We also are supporting families and just navigating the district. So we talked a lot about, do our families know what's being offered, what are opportunities for our students? So some of that work will be done through our PEN program, which I'll talk a little bit about as we go on in this presentation. So a family may come in to us with a need, and that is best addressed by their school, another district department, or one other community partner. But what we want to do is try to make families comfort, and it's a one-stop shop. So we want to, there's a lot of connection points that happen that our families have said they get sent to one department or another department. The goal of the Parent Center is to try to eliminate stops for a parent. We want it to be a one-stop shop. We want to be able to support the family, and we want them to feel supported and that they understand how to navigate our very complex system. The Parent Engagement Network is another component of our family engagement work. This was started here last year, where there was a series on housing, which is one of our parents have been asking about information on housing. And so while we want to support families with information internally on what's happening with the district and what's going on, we also want to provide information to families as they request. So PEN provides structured learning opportunities for families throughout the school year. This is also where I want to connect the Parent Center to the broader work of the Office of Parent Engagement. So focusing on models where our families feel that they can be successful as a parent in the district. This work is organized through the new REACH framework, which is respond, encourage, advocate, collaborate, and help. So the Parent Center is part of how we respond to families, and then the PEN will support how we encourage, build family knowledge and capacity. So there's an example of this. There has been questions about pre-K. There's been families asking about how I can be a better parent to my pre-K child. How can I support them in learning their colors, their sounds, and reading? And so the Parent Center and the Office of Parent Engagement has partnered with the pre-K families and administration to try to figure out how do we create a series on that. So while sometimes it's important for us to partner outside of the district for different PEN workshops, it's also important for us to partner with expertise right here in this district and provide opportunities for families to experience workshops with different departments so that we ourselves are participating as a network in supporting families. This slide just illustrates what we want the experience to look like when the individual families come into the Parent Center. A family connects with the parent center. We want to listen first, identify the need, provide information, personalized assistance, and then connect the family to the appropriate resource. Sometimes that resource may be physically located at the parent center. Sometimes it may be in another district department. Sometimes it may be in the family school, and sometimes it may be with a community partner. But the parent center does not always have to be the final destination. Its responsibility is to help make sure the family gets the right destination. And we are really working on building capacity with our parent liaisons and homeschool assistants right within the school building so that they have the information and resources that are appropriate for them to support families as well. So again, we're building that dual capacity. As we begin this work, we also need to be thoughtful about how we determine whether it's working. And so opening a building is not just the sole outcome. The building will be open, but we want to be looking at our access, how our families accessing information and resources. And we're not just simply counting the number of people who walk through the door. So the framework looks at access, engagement, and successful connections, family experience, and outcomes. So things we want to know would be, what are families coming to us for? What needs are appearing repeatedly? Are we successfully connecting families to the support they need? What are families telling us about their experiences? And what are our parent liaison and homeschool assistants hearing in our schools? So today's conversation is focused on the parent center, but we're also looking at supporting the parent liaisons and homeschool assistants in the building through the parent center's work as well. An example of that is just today, the Office of Parent Engagement held their first back to school professional development where they engaged in meaningful work around concept that they asked for. So they wanted more information about expanded learning opportunities, and they wanted to hear more about the food insecurities and the supports that exist in the city. And our staff are very interested in how they can be a stronger source of resource in the schools. So as we look to expand opportunities at the parent center, we also are looking just to continue to expand the capacity of the supports that we provide across the district.
And the one thing I want to share too is that, while we have some ideas as to what the parent center will most certainly look like and offer, what's the beauty on this, particularly in partnership with our parents, is that parents will have an opportunity throughout the school year to share with staff members what they would like to see in the parent center. So if it's workshops that are provided, if it's services, if it's supports, we will have an ongoing canvassing of parents, so parents will be able to share with us what they would like, the type of resources they would like to see, what they would like to receive from the parent center, so that we can then make those accommodations for our parents.
I think yep. So one of our next immediate, I just want to put in a plug, we're having our back to school jam, so please come out. It'll be August 22nd, right at Loretta Johnson, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Office of Parent Engagement and Ms. Briggs has been working hard with our community partners and our departments across the district, free book bags, supplies, and again, we want to be resourceful in how we're providing information to parents so that they're ready for when school starts, and our students are excited about that. So I want to make sure that you have an official invitation, but I'm sure you're aware, and we are excited to see you out.
Questions?
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for expounding on some of these services and resources that will be available to families through the Parent Center. What is the ultimate vision for the Parent Center? I understand the one-stop shop, and I see a series of different items that will respond to needs within the community. But if we were to provide a definitive vision for the family or the Parent Center, what might that look like?
So the Parent Center is a hub, and right now as we talked about the different sides of the community, where it's located right now, we service lots of our families and students. So we want an opportunity for families to not feel rushed when they're receiving supports. We have opportunities for community partners and services that families might receive in the area to come and partner at the hub. For example, there was a parent who was upset. We did offer opportunities for the parent to come in. They felt more settled coming into the Parent Center, not so much at the school at that time. So there was the opportunity for a meeting to happen at the center where it was away from the school setting, not feeling rushed. It's not packed over there, so it's an opportunity to kind of engage with our homeschool assistants. So that's one example of how the center could work. Also, there's often opportunities for families to receive food pantry items where maybe at their school the food pantry might be scarce. There's just another opportunity in the district for food pantry. We're also trying to open a clothing closet at the location. So again, not just at FIT, but there's another opportunity for families to receive resources. We're also looking to build capacity with families. So offering series, and while they might not always take place at the Parent Center, we know that we have an available opportunity there. Other events might be happening at schools. Sometimes we have to rent out spaces, but at least we know that there is a center where we can hold certain workshops impromptu or planned. But again, we want to grow into this space. I really think it's important for us to listen to our community and to build from that. If it doesn't work, we're going to try again. But I do think the parent liaisons and the whole school assistants in the buildings have voiced an excitement around just building the capacity and having a center that's specific to the needs of the families.
I'm glad to see there be capacity building, and I appreciate the differentiation between like a food pantry at one school. I remember going to a school and their pantry just was gone because I was trying to make the distinction between community schools and this parent center, because often a lot of the things provided here in the parent center you also see present in community schools. And so I wanted to really understand that differentiation so I can see how it could play on an offset basis on some level. I do have a hand from Commissioner Santiago.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the hours of operations will be.
Yeah, we have actually gone back and forth about what our hours of operation. Right now, they're going to be during their school day. Eventually, though, I believe that there might be an appetite based on some family feedback to have them later, so to have the center open later. So that's gonna take some shifts in workers' time and some conversation with HC on what that might look like. But we definitely are gonna open at the school hours for right now and then try to work on a plan on how we can stay open a little later in the evening.
Yeah, I'm wondering for transportation, will you guys have RTS passes at hand at the location? I'm sure that's probably like such a simple question, but I see in here that a lot of the like the conversations about connecting them to other offices or where to go. So like, let's say they came to the parent center saying, I need to register my child, and you're like, well, no, you got to go down to the central office. Are we providing ways of transportation for things like that?
Thank you. I'm going to write that down. I do think that the goal is, and I don't know if I should say this, so I'm going to say it, Dr. Rassa, I'm sorry. The goal is that at some point we have a satellite opportunity for registration next year.
Nice.
And that while we might not be open every day of the week, that we do have an opportunity for families to come to the center and start registration, because that has been a big ask, and that has been a problem with transportation with only one location offering registration. So I'm going to actually write down that idea about the bus passes, and we'll look into that.
I agree with that.
So it won't be open throughout the week, like every day of the week, all 5 days?
Yes, I'm saying only for in the future if we were to open up a satellite registration opportunity.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I just got that confused. And then last question, was it planned for this year to open 2 parent centers or just 1?
No, just 1.
Yeah, one of the things that we discussed during the budget process,
Yeah.
that we would
What's
only
one?
open up 1 to be able to reduce the expenditures for this year. And given the information that we will gather and collect over this year will then give us an understanding as to whether or not in future years we need to open up, or we should open up another one.
Okay, final question. I'm gonna leave my 2 minutes and 30 seconds to the rest of the board. What departments will be sitting in the building? Will there be any departments, like I know we have our family engagement department here, so will they be leaving central office into the parent center?
So right now, we have the OPE office. We do have some space for some multilingual supports as well. So we're working with the Buell, so the Office of Buell, to help connect multilingual homeschool assistants. So there's definitely room to grow. The Department of Community Schools right now is more so very much school-based, and so the department is small. I'm not sure if there's a need for them to take up space over at the parent center just yet, because they're really working on expanding the community schools model, which is in schools.
Yeah.
And then there's also an opportunity for social work. So we have a space where we would share a social worker, and a social worker would be able to come over as needed or on referral based. So there's a location that's private for those experiences with parents and those meetings to happen. So we definitely, what I don't want to do is to grow, to put too many, to fill up spaces just to fill them up, but to grow into the space and to hear the needs of the community. And I think we've left enough space in the building to do that.
And one of the things I'm working on as well, not just myself, but a few of us are working on, is having conversations with community-based organizations or entities that provide services to families to see whether or not they would like to use the parent center as a satellite for delivering services or evaluating if parents are eligible to receive services. So we're having those conversations. In fact, I have a meeting either this week or next week with a very big player in our community who provides services to families.
Yeah, that's exciting. Can't wait to see the center open. Can't wait to see it be a hub of organizations. I think we see in the downtown library, like every day there's new services, new organizations there to support families. And so I hope to see this at the Parent Engagement Center. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Commissioner Santiago. I do like the idea, particularly around the bus passes, even the emergency ones. As we were getting future planning there, I think that's prudent, because as much information gets out, there's still going to be someone who shows up who's like, oh, I'm in the wrong spot, and so being able to support them would be great. Vice President Malloy?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yes to bus passes for sure. And just to piggyback on hours of operation, similar to what Commissioner Santiago brought up, did parents express in the surveys that you did any interest in having weekend hours, perhaps like on a Saturday?
So we actually didn't put on a survey about weekends or office hours. I want to make sure that we check into HC and ensure that we can have staff working at certain times before we offer that up as an option to families. So we're just working those things out right
Yeah,
now.
it might be something in the future, but,
Right,
okay.
right.
And then I just remember too, like, the possibility of growing this model throughout the community. I know we're trying to save money, and that's why we have just one center opening, but I remember how convenient it was when I lived over near Webster Avenue, enrolling my first child in school, because there was an actual, there were satellite offices throughout the city. They were very small and they had limited hours, but I was able to walk from my home to register my first kid for school there. And it was very conveniently located next to School 33, which was our neighborhood school. So if there are, in terms of registration specifically, I know that can be helpful for a lot of families. But thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Malloy. Commissioner Feynman?
I have a question about school hours. Are we talking Loretta Johnson's school hours? That's like 7:30 to 2? Are we talking School 25, which is 9 to 3? Are we talking number 4? I mean, when you say school hours, even in that 3-block radius, there are so many different school hours. So I'm just curious what.
Yes,
the
and
school hours
correction,
mean.
what I should have said is central office hours, to be more
Thank you.
specific.
Thank you. Commissioner McCullough?
Those were really good questions from the board. I did have a couple real quick. You mentioned that you were going to be using different metrics to monitor the success of the center. And my question is, is there a tool that you have already in place or ready to put in place that's going to help monitor those metrics?
We do have a few. So one of the metrics that the team has already been using is they track every phone call. And so we know the percentage of phone calls and what they're coming in for, what parents are asking. What we don't have is the connection to one department to the other and was it closed out. So we have been in contact with IM&T and figuring out how we can make sure a referral is closed, but that is also something that we're working for community schools to ensure that a referral is closed on a community partner side. And we've also talked about that with social workers as they work on referral-based too. So that's something that we're working through our RFP to see if we can find a vendor who can support us in creating a dashboard to look at those things.
And
The
just a
other
point
thing
of-
is
just to add to what you indicated. So the RFP that Chief Wilson is speaking to is a part of the close to $1 million that we received from ESL. As a part of that particular award, it was written in there that there would be funding set aside to assist the district with developing that dashboard.
Okay, and then my other question would be, because I don't recall if it was stated as you were speaking, how will school-based FACE workers or parenting liaisons in the buildings, how are they being equipped to share the information or about the parent center to get people over there to actually utilize the services?
Right, so just today, I mentioned that there was a professional development with all parent liaisons and homeschool assistants led by Director Ms. Briggs, but we are there was a creation of a framework. So we're really looking at the model of capacity building, and what's important is not leaving out our homeschool assistants and parent liaisons and understanding what resources are available. So they have monthly meetings. They are working on tech support for newsletters. We are working on having them involved in the process. I think there was a leadership team created with parent liaisons and homeschool assistants who are telling us what families are saying in the building. So we definitely want to ensure that it's not just centralized and that we're just not at the central office level, but that we're hearing the voices of those who boots on the ground, and that we're responding at a centralized we're responding with a centralized answer to support buildings.
Thank you. With no other questions from the dais at this time, we appreciate the presentation this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Wilson. We're going to move on the agenda. Time check, it is 8:49. We have a few more items to get through here, and the next item on the agenda would be resolution review. These are Resolutions 140 through 154. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion for Resolutions 140 through 154.
So moved.
To move forward to the consent agenda, moved by Vice President Malloy, seconded by Commissioner McCullough. I do want to open up these set of resolutions for conversation or question relevant to the resolutions at hand. And again, those are 140 through 154.
I have a question.
Commissioner Feynman?
So I just need some understanding. We are giving Rochester Regional Health money for student mental health grant, and I am not saying that the priority for our social emotional health should be not our priority, but I'm curious that Liberty Health Resources, who is giving similar services, we're not paying them, and I'm assuming that's because they're billing. So I'm just curious as to where the difference is in the money, and it's the same sort of, from what I can read from the resolutions, the same sort of services.
Are you referencing 145? Okay.
Yes. It's a lot. Yes.
Chief Swan, if you can approach the microphone. That's in the student mental health grant, okay. They may be billing.
Commissioner, the services are slightly different. The Liberty services are, the Resolution 145 is Rochester Regional Health. That is mental health supports in both SOTA and School 17, up to 100 students. That's a direct service to students. Liberty is receiving in-kind space to provide mental health supports to students and families after school hours and hours that are conducive to families. So that's an MOA. We're providing the space where Rochester Regional is providing a direct service that we are paying for.
But it's a billable service.
Yes.
So why are we paying them for a service that they can bill for?
We're not paying, we're providing space. The MOA speaks to the provision of providing them with space. No cost impact to the district, other than providing the space
For Liberty Resources.
for Liberty Resources.
But Rochester Regional Health, we're paying them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because why? They're billable services that they can bill for. I understand that we're giving services to our students, and that is my top priority, especially mental health services to our students. And in my opinion, especially at SOTA, where we've had some severe tragedies happen. But these are billable services for Rochester Regional Health, and I'm confused as to why they are not billing also, like Liberty Resources is.
I can find that out for you, and certainly I'm happy to put it in the board log for all the commissioners to see. I know that this is part of the grant process where we identified partners to provide additional mental health supports to our students and families. And typically with that grant process, we'll go through a gap analysis and identify those needs in those particular buildings. What I think I'm asking you, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding your question, is you're wondering if those are billable by Rochester Regional Health, are we almost double paying for them?
That.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing-
Agreeable, I could find that out and
Yeah.
provide that answer for you.
And also look to see whether or not what we are paying for, if it's above and beyond what they're able to bill. Because I know in Poughkeepsie, when we created a mental health clinic, that we paid a certain amount that went above and beyond what they were able to bill for, so that our students had more.
Yep, certainly will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Feynman. Commissioner Griffin?
Thank you. I'm glad to see that we have Pathways to Peace on here, but I did speak about other potential organizations that are in the community that can assist with our safety concerns at the schools. I would like to know where we're at with that, and I also would like to add, will the members of Pathway to Peace be trained? Have additional training to address the needs of our children at every level? And if they are going to be trained, who's going to incur that cost, the district or the city?
Chief Scott?
Commissioner Griffin, the training that Pathways of Peace goes through, I don't know offhand, but I could certainly put it in the board log. But they do go through extensive training prior to anything anything that they do within the schools. But I can get a listing of what those trainings are, because many of those trainings we are also looking to also be a part of as some of our SSOs look to kind of turnkey some of those specialties as well.
Thank you, Chief Scott. You did answer part of my question. That's good to hear. But the other part of that question is, what other organizations are we looking into to address the needs of our kids based on the safety concerns that we have? Because we need to be intentional about inside the school, not outside the school, because inside is where we can alleviate a lot of the problems and minimize the problems, I should say. So I would like to know how that is going to be addressed, and that might not be for this particular resolution, but I would like to know how we're moving forward with that. And Dr. Rosser, do you have any answers for that part?
Most certainly.
Thank you.
Yeah, as I mentioned during our last meeting last week, that we are having conversations with a number of different entities. I had mentioned that I spoke with SNUG last week. You had actually, when we met, you gave a couple additional community-based organizations that we are working to schedule meetings for. I do want to note that this agreement for Pathways to Peace has been in motion for quite some time. And that's the reason why it's showing up for this evening to be voted on, of course, next week. But this does not eliminate the possibility that we may have additional organizations working in the schools. As I shared last week, that would require an RFP process in which we are considering as it relates to the conversations that we had and we will have in our next meeting this evening when we discuss the RPD contracts.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I know that we need to move expeditiously on this because of school starting, so we need to make sure that we're making sound decisions and moving with fidelity and implementing them correctly as well. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Griffin. Commissioner McCullough?
Yeah, I have just a couple quick questions. I want to put this one in the board log, though, if I can, because it doesn't need to be answered right now, because it will require some kind of information. But for Resolution 140 for the Pathways to Peace, I am a stickler on the return on investment. And in the executive summary, it stated that there are historical data that shows improved attendance and reduced suspensions in the locations that they're working at. So could we see what that looked like last year compared to the baseline for them, so that we could really see that improvement, so that we know that it's working, right? So, can that go into the board log for me, please? Thank you. And then my other question was for Resolution 143, which was MetLife. So I have a question. So in 2023, the board authorized an estimated annual cost of about $70K, using the same numbers for a $55K for the life and I think it's AD&D, and then $15K for the long-term disability breakdown. But what have the actual numbers been since 2023? Because what I noticed is that there's a increase, like a 25% increase, but it said that those numbers aren't supposed to increase, but yet there is. And those same numbers have been the same for the past 3, 4, 5 years. So why are we seeing increases in those numbers? And if we know those numbers are going to change, why aren't we seeing that consistently instead of these high increase percentages rising? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Chief Miller, can you address that, or do we need Jill Soggio?
Good evening. Thank you for the question, Commissioner. Healthcare and related expenses continue to rise quite significantly across the nation, and certainly in New York State. We're anticipating a 16% increase in just our healthcare as a district year over year. So the rates are ever-changing and unfortunately increasing, and we're working to manage those. I'll need to get back to you on some of the specifics of the prior years, and I'll put that in the board question log.
When you do that, can you also help me out and understand if the ceiling for these have been the same amount every year over year, and we've been asking for more than what the ceiling is, what has been happening with that unspent money? Has it been going back into the general pot? Have we been allocating it someplace else? Just so that we understand what it's looking like. Thank you.
Is that being committed to the question log? I did see some nods and what have you. You got that one? All right, thank you. Does that conclude the questions regarding the resolutions? Again, as they move forward, they will go to the consent agenda. I do want to check in with my colleagues on any resolutions. I'm sorry. No problem. I do want to check in with my colleagues on any resolutions from 140 to 154 that I want to make sure if something needs to be removed or followed up on, that I am capturing that. Am I missing any? All right, before we take the final vote, I do want to take the hand on screen, and we have a hand by Commissioner LeBron.
Yeah, I actually have a number of questions on 142, 144, 150, 151, 143, and 154, but I do want to submit them for the board question log. I just don't want them to get lost. And so that, based on those answers, will determine how I vote on those at the board.
Okay.
But I just want to put that on record.
Can you list those for the record one more time? 142, 143?
144, 150, 151, and 154. And I'll submit those questions to the board question log.
Thank you. Clerk Travis, you captured? Okay, thank you. And with that said, if those are looming questions, right, so I want to just move forward with 140 through 154. We're not removing, but Commissioner Miranda make it clear that she's going to submit hers to the log. With that said, entertaining a motion for 140 through 154 at this time.
We have the motion already.
Oh, we do
just
have
need
the
to vote.
motion, so all in favor of 140 through 154?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Did you capture the votes, or you need to hear the ayes? Good? Okay, all right, we're going to move forward with progress monitoring report. Again, time check 9:02. We do have a special meeting to close out of, and then I believe we have executive session on tonight, too. So let's get through the business.
Yeah, so that particular is just part of our reporting. We're just reporting right now.
Yep.
To provide the commissioners with the opportunity to review it and submit questions. We have already received a few questions from one of the commissioners, and then we will be discussing it at our business meeting next week.
Okay, so that's the report. I do have some questions, and I will hold those to the business meeting. Again, you have opportunity to look at the progress monitoring, submit questions to the log reasonably, and we'll have that conversation August 27th, right?
28th.
28th?
27th, no, 27th.
It's 27th, okay.
27th, yeah.
I got something
It was August
right.
28th last year.
Okay, and so that will, I believe, I'm going to motion to exit this particular meeting at this time. I don't see any other agenda items. Am I missing anything?
Motion.
Motion by, we ain't even done, y'all, so we like to talk a lot. But sometimes we have to, for real. But listen, okay, we're going to exit this meeting. And I have a motion from Commissioner Santiago, seconded by Commissioner McCullough. All in favor of
Aye.
exiting this work session? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're still here. Let's go into the special meeting really quickly. All right, so we're opening the special meeting. Tom, do I just need to validate that on the screen? All right, so again, Rochester Board of Education, we are entering, today again is August 18th, time check 9:04. We are entering into a special meeting for the consideration of resolutions. And before us, Commissioners, are resolutions 125 through 126. I do want to open the dais for conversation or concerns here. So entertaining motion for 125 and 126.
So moved.
Moved by Vice President Malloy.
President Simmons, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, before you guys do that, we do need you to change the numbers of 125 and 126 to 155 and 156.
Okay.
So motion to withdraw.
Trying to update my screen here. Let me see if it even updated for me. It did not. Okay, 155 and 156. So I'm going to entertain a motion to withdraw 125 and 126.
So moved.
Moved by Vice President Malloy. I need a second. Second by Commissioner McCullough. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, entertaining a motion for resolutions 155 and 156.
So moved.
Moved by Vice President Malloy. Seconded by Commissioner
I'm sorry.
McCullough.
I need you to, I'm sorry. we need the amendment to one. So right now, what happened was 125 and 126 was duplicated from the work session agenda. So what we're looking for is for you all to amend the numbers of 125 and 126 to be 155
Oh,
and
then you'll reflect it?
156.
Okay, I thought it just didn't update, because I'm using like a public, the
I
public board
gotcha.
docs right now, because I can't get in. Okay, so entertaining a motion to modify the resolutions 125 and 126 to reflect 125 being 155 and 126 to reflect resolution 126. That is the motion on the table. Motion by Commissioner McCullough.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Santiago. All in favor of that amendment or modification?
Aye.
Aye. All right, any opposed? All right, so now we have resolutions 155 and 156 on the agenda. Entertaining a motion for 155 and 156.
So moved.
Moved by Vice President Malloy, seconded by Commissioner McCullough. This is now open for discussion. Commissioner Santiago?
Yeah, I'm just going, I've had personal conversation with the superintendent, so I'm pretty updated on this, but I am going to ask for him to give a brief explanation to the public as far as the changes between the school arrival and dismissal resolution, which is 156 now. The changes between what it was originally, what it is now, and the plans moving forward for safety at our district. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for the question. So based upon the feedback that we received last week from our commissioners regarding this particular resolution of police presence or RPD presence at arrival and dismissal, there was some indication that given the need to do additional work with canvassing, community-based organizations, making sure that we are also canvassing our students and our staff members regarding, this particular situation, that we would need additional time to be able to put something into place. Through that conversation, I then conversed with the city and asked whether or not we could enter into a 6-month contract, in which I received confirmation that we would be able to. The resolution before you indicates that there would be a 6-month contract from the period of September 8th through March 8th, with the option to renew up to 4 additional 1-month terms, but those 1-month terms would need the approval of the board. So this is a resolution that speaks to RPD providing presence for arrival and dismissal until March 8th, with an understanding that district administration will come back to the board with multiple additional options to the options that were already presented at our last week meeting.
Thank you. And so it sounds like in the meantime, you'll be planning, I mean, personally, I would definitely love to see our SSOs, our internal team, get the proper equipment that they need, see how we can beef that up, and also partner with our community organizations. But I do have a quick question. So for this, we're agreeing to the 6 months, but the clause is in there that we can extend those 6 months if needed. Do you project that would need to be used, or are you just putting it in there as a precautionary?
We're just putting in there precautionary. We believe that we will be able to bring forward additional recommendations or options to the board. That will be, of course, those options, what is selected will be contingent upon, the board's appetite for either of them. But we do feel that within a 6-month span, we will be able to bring multiple additional options to the options that were already presented at the last week board meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Santiago. Yes, so I appreciate the efforts you've made with the start of school coming up tomorrow. Almost. It's tomorrow, and as long as this meeting's going, it's going to happen in a second. Yeah, but I do appreciate the efforts that you made, especially understanding where we as a we don't often agree on everything, but I do think there's a consensus among this board around certain spaces, and so identifying alternatives is important to us as a board. So again, the initiative to take that, we're looking forward to it. Do you happen to have a timeline as to when, and I know that won't be tomorrow, but a timeline around when you might be shopping some of the plans, or, hey, this is where we're going, so that we, before we make a final decision, when you have alternatives?
Yeah, not at this time, but
Yeah.
it will be those options will be presented with enough time for the board to deliberate. And we're not going to put the board in the position of presenting options, let's say, at our February business meeting, where we then need to make a decision right away. So we do plan on, and there's some things that are in the works under the leadership of Chief Scott that we're hopeful will be a viable option that the board would appreciate, along with other options that we will be developing through my conversations, of course, with community-based organizations and potentially the releasing of an RFP.
Thank you, that's fair. Okay, I'm going to go into Commissioner Griffin, then I'm going to take a final hand. Is there any hands on the screen? Okay. Commissioner Griffin?
Yes, I guess my concerns are revolved around not having the data to actually prove the need for the officers outside. How many events occurred last year or in the years prior that constituted the police to be there, and how quickly did they get there? Where is the data that is showing the need? Do we have that yet? Because we did ask for data. Did we get any data referencing the schools that actually needed police assistance? How many times did these schools need police assistance? And do we have it on a document in front of us that we can pull up? Because we did ask for that at the last meeting. We asked for clarity of data. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Chief Scott, go ahead.
Thanks, Commissioner Griffin. The data that you're asking for is somewhat hard to get for past incidents that have taken place. We certainly will ask RPD, but on any given day, there's situations that occur within the community at various schools, not even just the schools that we have requested for RPD to be there. But I will certainly go back and look through our paperwork just to put together a list for you of possible incidents that have occurred. Many of the ones that have occurred, of course, have been very serious, so I will certainly document that information and try to get that to the board.
And
Okay,
Chief Scott, real quick, there was information that was provided in that assessment report that spoke to call for service that was presented at our last board meeting, and that was also referenced at our last board meeting to give some indication as to how many call for services these buildings received over a period of time, just not last year, right?
Yeah, I think it was on page 8, but I can
I
I can bring that back up and put it back in the. I can put it in the question log as well.
Okay, I guess this is where my concern comes in. When we go to the administration and ask them for information, this is some of the things that happens with us. We don't get everything that we need. But then we have other conversations that says we overload the administration. No, I think that it's a flip. I think that we are overloaded because we don't get things in a timely fashion. And then when we do ask for the information, and this is just not directed towards you, Chief Scott, we don't get it when we need it to make decisions with fidelity. We're trying to vet information. We're not getting it to be able to make a constructive decision based on the safety of our children. So I don't know how everyone wants to move on this, with how they want to move on this, but I think that the only way that we can move is with information that's going to give us what we need to help. And I just don't get it. I mean, we can't do it that fast. We can't do it that fast, but you want us to do it fast. So you can't have it both ways. We need to work together. Where's the happy medium? So the medium is give us what we need so that we can move on these resolutions with fidelity. It's very simple. Follow the policy, give us what we need, follow the time frame, and this district can move greatly if we do it in that manner, with some things. But I think we all need to respect the fact that we need things and you need things. And you give us 140 plus resolutions and expect us to do it lickety split. But when we give you one assignment, you can't fulfill it. So you tell me who's wrong. I'm sorry, I had to say that. Sorry, that came from my stomach too.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Griffin. I do think it would be prudent for us as a board to recognize again, if there's information that we're looking for, that we are unified in the understanding of what the information is that we're requesting. So as a single board member, I haven't finished my sentence, and I am really a little perturbed by your constant interruption. I am not speaking to you, I'm speaking to my colleagues, and I'm going to ask you to pull yourself in order. I'm not speaking to you, and you have not been called on. I'm not speaking to you. All of us are single board members. I know you're a little insecure about what I'm saying, but I'm not speaking to you. Commissioner Griffin, I think you're out of order. I could not finish my sentence. Commissioner Griffin, you are out of order. You are really messing up business right now. Do we need another break because you can't control yourself? I'm speaking correctly, and I'm going to finish my sentence. Okay.
Motion to
I'm gonna-
recess?
Okay, let's take the recess so Commissioner Griffin can get it together. Then I will finish my sentence. It's 9:17
All in
time. We'll
favor?
be back in 2 minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And so welcome back to the Rochester Board of Education. We're in a special meeting considering a couple of resolutions here. I was in the process of trying to share my thoughts on a matter that we're discussing, which are resolutions 155 and 156. There are concerns around information and things of that nature. The statement that I am making currently is that we as a board need to collectively understand what it is that we'd like to present as far as the data that we would like to see in this. As individual commissioners, we're not going to be able to be on the same page at all times, but if we come together as a full board and make a decision, we can then request the information that we're looking for. So if there is data, we may be able to definitively understand what it is we want to see collectively. So I would encourage us to work through that so that we know what that looks like. I appreciate the opportunity to finish that sentence. With that said, I do have a hand online, and that would be Commissioner LeBron.
Thank you. I would also say to the data point, is that they need to sort their CISs. It also can't be police were there wasn't an incident, therefore there's the data that the incident didn't occur. And I think that's the issue that I know I personally am having, but I also think it's what Commissioner Griffin also alluded to at the previous meeting, that we are being presented information with data and no sources to where this data is even coming from. However, I just want to point out a couple of things in doing some research. I didn't even realize that this resolution wasn't going to pass. I certainly am not voting or supporting of it either way, but there was a law change, and I do want to, on the record, ask for legal to give the board a legal memo about this law change and what this means into going into contract. And so that law is Education Law subsection 2801A. And there is a commissioner regulation that was also updated, and that is subsection 155.17. And that speaks to school districts going into contracts with any law enforcement and it requiring public input. The public also has to say what that looks like, and we were supposed to be documenting that. With that public input, we're supposed to also define that police are not the disciplinary individuals on school campus or school grounds. That has never occurred, and I think in part it was because that law passed in 2020 and we were shut down. We were virtual at that point, and when we did come back, that was the removal of SROs. And I want to be clear that the law actually does not define it as just SROs. The law says any law enforcement and or security enforcement, right? So if we're even hiring a third party, we are supposed to have a public input session that allows the community, parents, to give input about what that contract and that partnership looks like. So I do think before you all even vote on it, that we should get legal counsel on whether we're in compliant with that. And if we're not in compliant, what consequences that could be. And I want to be clear that, again, there was perhaps just oversight that when the SROs were removed, that the language perhaps did only apply to SROs, and that with the language expansion, broadly further expanding it to beyond SROs, that we probably, there was an oversight there. We should not be having the contract without that session. So with that, that is all I want to say tonight. It is up to this board how you all move forward. But for me, I do think it's going to be critical that we get clarity on whether we're compliant with that law or not, and what we need to do to become compliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. Counsel?
Thank you very much. I think the regulation that Commissioner LeBron is referencing is the school safety plan, which is presented to the public, and it should incorporate everything that the district does from a safety and security standpoint. So, you know, the relationships with law enforcement being a part of that collective plan that's presented. I am, again, I'm happy to provide the board some more information in executive session. I take any kind of legal questions from commissioners seriously, and will double check sources. I'm not aware of anything that would prevent the board from acting tonight. That said, if I find information prior to execution of the contract or fulfillment of the contract that says the district can't enter into it, then I'll come back and tell commissioners you can't enter into it. So as the board sits here with this decision before them, I am not aware of anything that prevents the board from acting on it. But I will absolutely do what Commissioner LeBron has requested and just do a double check. Again, I believe both the law and the regulation that Commissioner LeBron referenced are the school safety plans. And she is also correct, prior to SROs, the SRO contracts, that was a part of like a public input, right, as it pertains to that. And the contracts like specifically reference that. You know, the law enforcement are not really, they're not inside our schools, so to speak. But I will, again, between you know, if the board acts tonight and when any execution, if I believe that the district can execute it, that's if the board approves it, I will say, I will provide a memorandum to the board saying legally, you can't do this until this act happens.
Thank you, General Counsel. And how long have we, I know we typically have law enforcement or the support at the events, as well as we've, to Commissioner LeBron's point, had folks or police or what have you outside of schools. I don't know when that was. I know right after COVID, but how long have we been for the past 3 years,
If
or
I'm
how
not
long?
mistaken, it was in 2023 when the district entered into this particular contract with arrival and dismissal.
For both of these, okay. And
Just,
just
arrival and dismissal. I don't know about the sporting events, right?
Yeah, I just wanted that for my own curiosity, and it doesn't mean anything, 'cause just because it's there now doesn't mean it needs to stay, just like SROs change and so on. So, but I did want to kind of have a pulse on that for myself. Commissioner McCullough, we'll take a final question from you, and then we'll take a
Okay,
vote.
thank you. I just wanted to be clear on what I just heard Commissioner LeBron say and what is actually happening and what this resolution is, especially for not necessarily the events and the events one, but for the other one where they're going to be outside of the buildings. They are not doing any type of discipline, any type of anything. They are just there in presence or in a car. Like there's no other interaction that these officers are having with the buildings, correct?
Not unless called upon.
Not unless called upon by the building administration. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was hearing, because what I feel like was being said from Commissioner Brown was the laws changed it where they can't do certain things, but that's not what's happening anyways.
And Chief Scott, if you want to affirm that,
I
come
just
back
want
to the
to make sure
microphone.
that I heard right.
I'm sorry, just again, Commissioner McCullough?
So the question pertained to the particular contract around arrival and dismissal.
Yeah,
What
the-
are the officers who are present actually engaged on? And if you could just speak to that.
Yep, there's no discipline that RPD provides to our schools whatsoever. The only time is when the school itself, where we are indicated or they let us know that there's things happening within the community. But anything as far as like inside the school, there's no, they have no jurisdiction whatsoever regarding any discipline that takes place within our buildings.
So a schoolyard fight will not end up with a misdemeanor?
No.
Okay. Okay. So recognizing again, the matter at hand is that school happens in a matter of weeks, and administration does need time to plan, so on and so forth. These have been around for anyway, we've got resolutions 155 and 156 on the table. I call on the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor of resolutions 155 and 156?
I'm a no.
Any opposed?
I'm a no.
All right, the ayes have it, and we have 2 noes that you've captured.
Hold on. I am a yes for 155, and I am a no for 156. So a yes for sporting and events, no for arrival and dismissal.
So 150, let's say that again. Okay, so we've got that. You have that, Clerk Travis? And so at this particular time, this meeting may recess into executive session, closed to the public, to discuss matters leading to the appointment or employment of a particular person, to discuss matters made confidential pursuant to federal or state law, and to receive the advice of general counsel as permitted by Section 105 of the Open Meetings Law. Entertaining a motion to enter into executive session at this time, moved by Vice President Malloy, seconded by Commissioner Griffin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We will enter into executive session, second floor conference room.